Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Table Talk, which is a show about food, but it's not about recipes. Recipes may come up, but this is not a cooking show, uh, mainly because I am just not qualified to do a cooking show. And I would be the one who was just standing aside watching other people cook right through, and that would get embarrassing after a while. But the conversations that we have are the conversations that adjoin food, that are adjacent to food and that intersect with food, because food, as I discovered in the course of the last year and a half with Simple Recipes for Complicated Times, the Facebook group I run, intersects just about everything in so many different ways. And that really is the reason for these conversations. So my guest today is Kishi Arora. And I've known Kishi for like over a decade, when I think I first met her because she was one among a group of TED India fellows, who some of them who were friends of mine, and we met in a mutual friend's house. And I took an instant liking to Kishi and the way that it's just the joy that she brings into the world, and uh,
That's
with
so kind.
also the hope that she would send me a dessert now and then. And Kishi sends me photographs of cake every year on my birthday. I still haven't sampled Kishi's food, but despite those photographs, I'm still so deeply fond of her. So, Kishi, thank you for joining us.
I am so glad I'm part of this. I'm genuinely very happy. And the best part about this is that you told me it's a casual one, because if it was one of those serious ones, I'd be like, sorry, not at 9 o'clock. I'm just going to go to bed. So I'm really glad I'm here.
Yeah.
And I
And
promise you that I will make you eat lots of desserts whenever you get your lazy ass to Delhi.
yeah, and Kishi's particularly, I mean, she's had a particularly long day. There was a bereavement in the family, and she's been driving around the city and has a really bad headache and is still here. So, extra thanks for that.
Oh,
Um,
I'm really glad I'm here too.
yeah. So, Kishi, I thought we'd start by just looking at how your opinions on food formed, the way that you first encountered food as a little girl, as a child. And what were your memories of those? I try to get those because those are formative, and the way that we look at food is so much
Hmm.
based on how we experienced food as children. Even things like, say, comfort food is so dependent on time and place and who gave us that food and what was happening. Like, I have a comfort food that I share with very few other people. It's kaswe. And
Okay.
it's because part of my family lived in Burma
Hmm.
and escaped from Burma just before in the course of the Second World War. My grandma and my aunt made great kaswe. And to me, kaswe is Christmas, and that warmth, that feeling of family gathered at my grandma's house and all of that. So, what were your earliest memories of food, and then your earliest memories of cooking?
Believe it or not, I grew up with memories that I don't remember. My memories that I remember, because my mom said I would eat everything. That's what she tells me. So it's like fed memory, like, oh, I ate everything. But what my memory is from school days, like let's say maybe sixth grade, is what I remember with food, because I think I didn't really pay that much attention. I was a Maggie eating girl. I mean, I ate Maggie like there was no tomorrow. I mean, I would come back from school and have chapati and put Maggie in between, make a roll. No ketchup. Ketchup was just a big no-no for me. Somehow I didn't like the taste. But Maggie with roti, ghee roti with Maggie, Maggie in a bowl, Maggie with mutter. And there was a time my dad used to say and laugh about it that whenever she gets married, my dad was completely against dowry. But he used to say, thing I'll give her in dowry is a truck of Maggie, because this girl eats Maggie with everything. She just wants Maggie, Maggie, Maggie. But I don't know what happened in grade 10th or 11th. That's when I think it kind of hit me that I am just eating not the best thing in the world. At the end of the day, it sits in your stomach. And I think a lot of times people would tease me very often, because I'm short-heighted, I'm 5 feet, and I've been like this from sixth grade. That, oh, the reason why you're not growing taller, at least the cousins and all would say, is because you were eating Maggie all the time. So I stopped somewhere, hoping that in 10th grade the height was going to change and I might just become taller. So I associate food like this, like moments and music and time. So for me, I started eating vegetables other than Maggie is because, oh, I might become taller. But the routines or the memory of strongly other things other than Maggie were Rajma Chawal. I'm a Sunday Rajma Chawal eater. die-hard fan. Like I haven't eaten Rajma Chawal today, but probably that's why I have a headache, I'm going to eat it tomorrow or day after. So Rajma Chawal always. I'm a Rajma Chawal, Chole Chawal, not the biggest fan of curry. So for me, Chole Chawal, Rajma Chawal are two childhood memories, comfort food, and then Maggie. And as time passed, I think that's when I started probably appreciating food. And I get that from my father, I would say, not my mom. My mom was more of the person who would cook the food. But my father was the one who brought the idea of making what to make, on the table. Like he would say, okay, he's eaten something. He traveled everywhere in the world. He was a trader. So, he would sell cables and he started selling newspaper at a really young age. So he's moved around pretty much everywhere in India, and that too on a, two-wheeler. So he would eat something in a village because he would eat only food that was affordable. So he has eaten a lot of local food. What Zachary is promoting now, my dad was promoting like without being a chef, like 20 years back when no one really knew about it, because he's someone who has traveled because of work. And when you travel because of work in small towns, you make the town people your friend and you eat what they eat, whatever's local, because that's the most fresh food that you can get. So he was the one who would sort of introduce different kind of vegetables to us. Like he would tell my mother, oh, I ate this somewhere, make this. Or I did this, so, do this. So it was really nice. Like I think that's my memory of food. Like my father bringing new food items to the table, and my mom at least pretending to be a chef and making that food of whatever he's explaining and how he's explaining, and then us kids just eating it and saying whether we like it or we don't like it. Like in my house, you don't make bhindi with a tari ka sabzi. Basically, you don't make bhindi with a gravy. So we don't eat bhindi with a gravy. And so whenever I have gone out and I've seen bhindi with a gravy, a part of me just backs off and says, no, 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 I don't want to try. But not at this age now. This age, I try everything. Anything as long as it's vegetarian, I'll try. But as a kid, I was like, no, I don't eat this in my house. So it was a thinking in a box, but it was still some thinking and better than Maggie. So I feel that I have evolved over a period of time and my memories have changed. My memory has changed from 10th grade to 12th grade. The height never changed, but the memories went on changing. So that's how I see it as.
Yeah. Yes, Maggie was a bit of a thing that came in later in life. I'm older than you, and so my childhood was spent in pre-liberalization days, and we didn't have that many brands. But I do remember that in my teens, late teens, I went off Maggie in a big way. And this was a result of my parents having been out of town for some point, and they left me with some food and some basic recipes and pocket money to grab the occasional thali, and I ran out. And so I had to live on Maggie. And I did all kinds of combinations of Maggie noodles. And after that, I never wanted to touch Maggie noodles again.
I don't know, some sort of a love and hate relationship is what I would also like to say. Loved it and then just said no, and I don't eat Maggie anymore.
Yeah.
People will say, oh, in the hills it's amazing. I will take a bite of it for nostalgia's sake, but that's about it. I will eat a parantha in the hills.
Yeah.
So no more Maggie for me. Changed.
Entire lockdown period and all that, in the severe lockdown, people were running to stock up Maggie, and I was fortunate in that because that was one of the things I didn't want.
Yeah, same.
A few other convenience foods, getting the macaroni and spaghetti and stuff like that. But so Kishi, were you always vegetarian?
Yeah. So I grew up vegetarian. I don't know what it's like to eat meat. My father was a hardcore vegetarian, and my mother, hardcore meat eater, who did not eat vegetables at all. Like she didn't touch vegetables. She's a Sardarni. So she didn't touch any vegetables, chicken, fish, mutton. Like they ate meat, lunch, dinner, and vegetable was something that was added to the meat just to give it some sort of a body. Like potato was added to give it body, or for that reason, let's say some vegetables were added on the side. So she didn't eat vegetables at all, and my father ate only vegetables. When she got married to my father, she stopped eating meat completely. So and so, like she stopped eating biscuits with egg also. So she turned vegetarian. So she's my guide to what it could taste like. Like she makes jackfruit in a style which is very sort of nostalgia for her, which is very like, I don't know. It's replaceable in her head somehow. I think it's how she trains her brain by saying that it is like meat, but it's not meat. So she cooks it just the same way her mother cooked the meat dishes, but it's jackfruit. and she fries it because she wants to give that texture or, that caramelization stuff. So she'll tell me this is the closest you can get, or she'll cook something and she'll say the gravy we used to use as a kid in chicken. So she's my person to sort of tell me about it. But other than that, no, never. I mean, by mistake twice in flight from London to Sweden, where my neighbor who was sitting next to me was a Swedish girl. And when I checked with her later, I was like, oh, this is really tasty. What is it? Paneer ball, like some sort of cheese ball? And she's like, no, it's fish balls. And I was just freaked out because my dad, a hardcore vegetarian, is eating the same thing too, because fish is vegetarian in Sweden. And that time you didn't have these tick marks of like, whether Indian vegetarian or a Hindu vegetarian, all that kind of stuff. So my father didn't pay for any flight for British Airways for the next 2 years. Not a single money he paid, because he was devastated. And I really enjoyed it. So I told my mother, can we go back home and make this paneer cabbage ball, whatever I've eaten? And she's like, ask your neighbor what it is. Then I'll learn the recipe and we'll make it. She said, oh, you just mash a lot of fish and then you make fish balls out of it. And we were just like, okay. So never, no meat, eggs. As recent as the time I went to CIA, that's 2014. Before that, no eggs also. Everything vegetarian. I mean, that's my household.
Mm.
Lots of fiber, lots of greens, but no meat, no egg, nothing. I don't know. I don't even like, when people say, don't you get tempted? Like my brother has this urge to try, or this feeling when he looks at something, he's like, wow, that really looks tempting. It didn't happen to me at all.
Okay.
Not once. I've never craved it, never eaten it.
I do remember a lot of Indian people had the issue when they were traveling abroad, and as India opened out to the world and more Indians were able to do that thing, of finding it really difficult to be vegetarian. And whether I have friends who went to Europe and lived on cheese and bread and fruit, what was on the buffet table kind of thing, and they would just go through entire days living on bread and fruit, literally. And this is a funny story a friend of mine told of someone had booked their parents on a flight, British Airways, and vegetarian, and they were South Indian. And on the flight, the old gentleman was very happy with the food. He was deeply upset because he didn't get curds. And they were like, no, we were told specifically by your daughter that you are vegetarian, so that curd is animal product. So we didn't, obviously we can't serve that to you. So that understanding deeply, and of course the world has changed so much in the understanding of what the consumption of commercially produced meat and dairy and all of those things mean.
Yeah, it's changing now. People are moving to, veganism and vegetarianism. And when I went to CIA in 2014, like from 2004 and 14, God, I'm not even thinking years right, 2004. I suddenly cut 10 years completely. That's nice though. So in 2004, it was really funny because when I went there was no vegetarian so-called student to begin with. I was only vegetarian student. They asked me, why the hell have you come to a culinary school to begin with? Because I joined not as as a pastry person, as a culinary person. So they were like, why are you here? And I'm like, I want to be a chef. And they were like, but you're a vegetarian. What will you do? Like, I was sort of given really bad treatment. And I'm very honest about it. Like, I hated it initially. I was like, what's wrong with these people? Just because you don't eat meat doesn't mean you can't learn cooking. And I actually fought with my deans, and I started a petition with a girl from Philippines named Lynn Lahu, and she was a non-vegetarian, but she turned into a monk basically, and she was 48 years old then, and she wanted to sort of learn about food, and she wanted to be a chef. So she was a late joining, let's say later in life realized I want to be a chef. And she'd become a monk. So she was a vegetarian too, and we both would only eat like big pastas because the sauces also had some sort of meat in them or chicken stock or something. So it was never vegetarian. But we lived on bread and butter, and there's only that much you can live on bread and butter. Started the petition and fought our way through. And finally, I remember Dean Gumpel, who was the dean then, said, you know what, I give up with these girls. They're not going to give in. And we need to figure something out. And because there were lots of vegetarian dishes and different, so CIA has this style of kitchen that if it's a Mediterranean kitchen, there'll be 2-3 dishes vegetarian. Then there is a Indian kitchen, like Indian day in a kitchen, they'll have 2 vegetarian dishes. But it is going in a cycle, and every class is assigned every kitchen, let's say, example, I'm a baking and pastry student. I'm assigned an Indian kitchen for 30 days because that's what they're learning. We are their guinea pigs. Whatever they're cooking, we eat that. So they only make one vegetarian thing, example, rice with some sort of a salad, and that's all I was getting to eat. And that's not good enough nutrition to take, you know. I was gaining weight and not feeling the best, tired all the time and lethargic because I was just eating bread butter. Finally, when we got the card, we became so lucky that we could go to any kitchen and pick up their vegetarian dishes. So my tray used to be full of sides of a lot of people that was being cooked by different students instead of the assigned kitchen. So I was eating, if I felt like Mediterranean salad today, I could have had that and the Mexican salad. If I felt like just having rice with like some sort of a curry, I could just have that. But we had to fight our way through. It was awful. I mean, it was really awful because I was shocked that a culinary school didn't have a vegetarian meal to begin with. And it was something that changed me also to sort of accept that what I think is normal in my country is not normal elsewhere. I think this is what going to a school made me as a person accept changes, because I was really hell-bent that, you know, vegetarian is better, vegetarian is better. I was one of those girls who would teetotaler. Alcohol is bad for health. It really messes up your brain. Vegetarian is the good food, because I grew up with people doing only this around me. Only my friends ate meat. So I built my own opinions then, but it's going to the US that changed me as a human being also.
When did you decide that, when did you get so interested in cooking that you eventually made it your profession? And when did that start?
2000, no, not 2000, 1999. Exactly then. I was finishing school and my father used to live in Singapore. You know, he was a trader. He worked in Delhi and self-made and everything. And then what happened was that there was a really dip in the business because he was a cables trader and cables were going out of fashion. Fiber cables were coming in then. So the business was really bad that time. So every person wants to survive, obviously families there. He decided that he's going to get into a new style or line of business. And he moved to Singapore then and told my mother that I'll keep coming and going. I need to find different kind of work. This is not working right now. And he went to Singapore. And I think that was the first decision as a grown-up I made. I told my mom, this is very unfair on him. You are his wife. You must also go to Singapore. I don't know. I took that responsibility or what. Like I just said, you must also go. It's not fair. I'll stay here with Dada. It's fine. My grandfather was here. That I'll stay with him and I will do my own thing. And, I'll go to school. I'll study. I promise I'll do everything. But you must be with Papa because he's going through so much. He must have some companion and some family with him. Imagine he's so tired. He's coming back from work, couldn't find anything. Then what will he do? And I think my mom really understood that. And she kind of believed me that, I really will take care of myself. She actually went to Singapore. My parents moved to Singapore. And that's when I think the responsibility came on my shoulder. I was 15, I think, 15, 16, and the responsibility came on the shoulder. And I started cooking for my grandfather because my grandfather was one of those doting grandfathers, and he loved me way too much. I'm the first child in the family. I would even make crap, he'd eat it. He would never say it's bad. So he sort of, I think he pushed me to sort of try new things and eat. And he would just tell me, no Maggie, no Maggie is what I don't want to eat. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll cook something else. And by that time, I had sort of, developed a taste bud where I would eat everything else. I started cooking very often. And then is when I sort of believed that I'm a chef, because I had French windows in the house in my kitchen. I would open up the windows and I used to watch this thing called Yan Gan Cook, which I don't know how many people know, because that's my ultimate cooking show that I loved, because his cooking skills were so amazing, like his knife skills and stuff. So I'd watch that. And I used to have this staff girl who was my age also. Her mother had left that dono ladkiyan ek age ki hongi. So I'll leave my daughter here. She can also learn and she'll help in housework also. Murthy, who's now in Singapore and a very well-known cook in some rich family, So she was there and she would tell my mother, Mama, I think, she would call my mom Mama, and she'd say, Mama, I think Didi na pagal hai, because pata nahi kisse baat karti rehti hai, khidki khulti hai aur baat karti hai aur khana banati rehti hai, par kisi se baat karti rehti hai. I would assume I have an audience. So I would say, now you add salt and now you must do this and now you must do that. And she used to, because I'd speak in English, and she'd think I was crazy. And that's when my love for cooking happened, with my parents moving to Singapore. And having that responsibility come on me to take care of my grandfather, the cooking happened, because I would want to, impress my friends also that I can cook really good food. see how good I am. Like I'm learning from my mother. And then at the same time, watch a lot of like TV, cooking shows and stuff, and then cook from there. That's how it started. That's my interest in cooking started. Pressure.
And then,
to keep my grandfather entertained without Maggie.
so, but when did you decide to become a cook? And then what happened? Take us through all of that.
Okay, so
To
this
the
happened.
CIA, which
College was.
I should specify to everyone, the CIA is the Culinary Institute of America, and Kishi is not someone who will have to kill us after the show.
No, I won't. So it was really funny because school, so normal, commerce student, did really well in school, topped the school. So went to SRCC, did really well there also. The whole world was doing CAT exams, this exam, and I was like, this is nuts. I don't think I'm built for this. I want to do hands-on things. And I was in love with the boy then. And he was going to America. He didn't do too well in school. The mother wanted to blame me for sure. And he realized that he will go in 1 year's gap. So basically, when we were in first year college, he would go there. Second year of college, he was gone. So I was very heartbroken, right? Because you're in love, all that emotions just come through. So I was like, I'll also go to America, I'll meet him there. What's the difference? What's the big deal? I anyways want to be a chef. So a friend of mine, partial, not like strong about it. It was more because, oh, I will go there and then I'll become a chef. Like, what college shall I apply to right now? I don't know. I was not clear about it. And my father wanted me to go to LSE because, his dreams were that my daughters get education and things like that. So he wanted us to study. And in third year of college, he asked me, what are your plans? Because he was in Singapore that time. Summer holidays would be in Singapore. So he'd be like, what are your plans? What do you plan to do? I said, I don't know, but I think I want to be a chef. And he's like, Bawarchi banna hai, of all the things in the world. Why? I mean, am I paying for your education and all this so that you become a Bawarchi? I mean, you want to learn all this, you cook at home, but this is no profession. You will not become a chef. Please become something else. Go to management school. And that time management was like this hotcakes. Everyone wanted to become an MBA or whatever. So he was very keen. I go to LSE and all. For his sake, I applied there. I applied in college in Australia also because my Masi lives in Australia. And quietly applied to a culinary school also. I said, we'll see. I'm in love with the boy. I'll go to America. Never thinking he's Seattle, I'm New York is as good as being in India and some other country. It's pretty much like that. And culinary school called me and they said they took an interview. A girl who's never eaten any desserts other than Black Forest and pineapple. That's what Delhi people know. I didn't know what a tiramisu was. But I was honest. That was one thing that got me through the interview. They were like, so how do you make a tiramisu? I was like, I don't know what a tiramisu is. I come from a very simple dal roti family, vegetarian family. I don't know, but I want to do this. I really want to learn. And I told them, I said, if you give me a few days time, I'll learn how to make tiramisu. I will, do my research. I'll learn everything. And they were very impressed by that because also that time, no one was going to culinary school the way they go now. Like now people go for 3 months, they become a chef. People weren't going, and I was going for a full-time degree, like a 2-year degree. So they were like, she's keen. So they asked a lot of questions. I think it was a 2-hour interview. Somehow I got through that interview. I really don't know how. I think it's always happened in my life. When I really want something, I'm honest about it. And I got through. I got a paper that said, you've been accepted. Then I got through LSE also. Then I got through the college in Australia also. I was a confused child by the end of it because shall I fulfill my dad's happiness or go to my Masi because my mom wants me there? There'll be someone to look after me, or go to I picked up culinary. I became a rebel that time. I went against my family. I went against my father's wishes. And he told me straight, no money will be given to you. So he said, there is no way I'm paying for I will save this money for your marriage, but I'm not giving to you for this stupid education of becoming a chef. And I was just like, fine, don't give me. I will take up a loan. I took up a loan. So I went to CIA on a loan and I made my uncle in America sign as a co-signee for me. When I came back to India in 2007, 2012 is when I got rid of that loan. Reality check. It's not cheap. It's 50 lakh rupees. I was earning, paying. It's a lot of money. Going to culinary school isn't cheap. So when people say, I want to go to a culinary school, I'm just like, are you sure? Have you thought about this? You have to stand on your feet too many hours. So there are people who obviously are happy to pay for such a kind of education, but I know how I paid through it. So I went against the family, against the wishes of my father, who really could have just given me this money, but I didn't want to do it. So I went to culinary school then, and that's how the whole journey started. And the journey started with a very confused Kishi too, because I applied for baking. I mean, I applied for culinary. I never thought that when I'll go there, I'll be a clueless child in that kitchen. I don't have knife skills like chefs do. Generally, all the kids who come to a culinary school have already done a lot of culinary, let's say, little snippets of working in some kitchens here and there. I never worked in any kitchen. They shadowed somewhere in some, with some chef from a local kitchen, so their knife skill of cutting potatoes and onions are there. I grew up with a mother cutting with a small little knife like a typical housewife, cutting potato. That's all I also knew how to cut. I till today do not have great knife skills, and I'm okay about it because my palate is much better. So as long as I'm able to chop it and then it's okay. My mother has better knife skills than me, and that too, like a chef, like she really practices every day, so she's better with knife. And when this happened, I did culinary for 3 months in school because that's how I'd applied, and I had fought everyone, so there was no way I was coming back and bringing shame to my name because I had fought and taken up a loan. So the third month they made me butcher a chicken. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights because in my head I was like, oh my god, I'm so evil. Like, I have never eaten it. Here, forget eating, I'm actually butchering a chicken. And I was very honest to one of the chefs named Peter Grueling, who was a really nice chef in our, in initial like orientation stuff. So I just told him, I said, is there a way out? Like, can I run from here without my family knowing? What should I do? He said, switch to baking and pastry. You don't have to butcher anything. I switched to baking pastry. It was a nightmare because very rarely it happens that someone comes for culinary and then switches to baking and pastry. But the deans were really, really nice because I told them there is no way I'll ever eat meat. That I know for sure I'm not doing. I'm not breaking those kind of rules. But I will not go back home. I will bring shame to myself if I go back home. So that's how baking and pastry happened, is what I tell people. It happened by default. I was not interested in making cakes. I was not interested in making any sorts of pastries or desserts. I had never dreamt of learning any pastry. I wanted to be a chef, like cook. And here I am in culinary school, not wanting to come back, being a rebel. What do? I switched to baking and pastry. And I knew nothing, zero about bread. I didn't know how to mix flour. All I knew was roti. All I knew was paratha. All I knew was puri, the Indian breads I grew up eating. And that too very limited. My family's knowledge of food comes because of my father and what my mother's eaten. So my knowledge was also limited like that. It wasn't like my father didn't travel the south very much, so he only knew dosa and idli. He didn't know like there are so many other varieties of dosas, like an adaya and things. He didn't know all that. So my knowledge was so limited, and suddenly you enter a place where the first class is of baking breads. I was a clueless child. I was embarrassed because I didn't know anything. I did not know what kind of like we've grown up with either a Bombay tomato or a desi tomato. I don't know what a Roma tomato was. I didn't know what a tomato from Naples was. I was a clueless child. I was thrown in a tank of sharks. That's how I felt. But I
One
found
quick
people.
question. What is a Bombay tomato? I've lived in Bombay most of
So
my
in
life. I
Delhi,
have
when you're in
no idea.
Delhi, you get Bombay tomato, which looks like a Roma tomato, but it's actually tomato that's grown in Maharashtra and Bombay area. It's actually more, I won't say it's more plump, but it's more stiff. So when you're making curries and all, it gives a very nice velvety texture, whereas desi tomato is khatta. The skin is patla.
All right.
Bombay tomato, the skin is thicker.
Got it. So
So
I've never heard of this. I was wondering.
yeah, so those were the only two tomatoes I knew, and then sat. But I don't know, call it a blessing. And because I'd made up my mind, I want to be in a culinary school, professors took a liking from me. And my name in school was not just Kishi or Kishi Arora like now. In my passport, my name was Kishi. So the name in the US has always been Kishi Kishi because they need a surname. And once, I mean, my visas would say Funu Kishi, first name unknown Kishi, because my passport name was just Kishi. It was made in Singapore. America requires a second name. Social Security did my name as Kishi Kishi. So my chef coat would always have Kishi Kishi, and they'd never heard of someone like that, someone with same name and last name. So I became someone who was in that big, I don't know, like lots of people, over 1,000+ people, girl with the first and the last name being same. Kishi Kishi was just like a joke, but somehow that made me also known to a lot of professors and deans. And I was honest to them. I told them, I don't know what you guys are teaching. I'm clueless. I have no idea what kind of tomatoes. It was Chef Lopez, the first chef at CIA, who was teaching product knowledge class there. And basically they teach you about ingredients, about products, how to test. He's just told me one day, he had an Indian mother and he was a Caribbean guy. He said, you know what, after school is finished, 1 hour extra class, I'm going to give you, come, bring a book. I'll get you a basic book. You know what? He got me a book with 20 types of tomatoes. These are the tomatoes. These are the different kinds of gourds. I had no idea. So he was teaching me how to recognize tomatoes, because when he would say, go get this tomato, I'd be a clueless child. What tomato? What tomato? But he started teaching me, and professors just took a sweet liking to the fact that I was honest and telling them, I'm clueless. Please teach me. I'm ready to learn. They just started teaching me, and it took me 3 months more than any other student. And I picked up pretty much everything that I can now remember. I picked up every ingredient. I picked up names, techniques. I didn't know names. When the teacher would say, go make a sabayon, I'd be like, what's a sabayon? You've never eaten a tiramisu? I was like, no, I've only eaten black forest pastries, cake, cream, cherry, chocolate. That's it. I don't know all this. So I was a very clueless child initially. It was tough 6 months, very, very tough. And I was called broccoli girl, dot head, all sorts of names, because one, I'm a vegetarian, Indian. So, there were lots of people have this very thing, oh, schools are amazing. No, schools are a place where you get bullied really well. So I got bullied very badly. Short heighted, you can sit in short height, so you can sit in a bowl and we can make whipped cream out of you, because I was big Hobart bowls, I could actually sit in them. So lots of, you're short, your hands can't reach, you can't reach this place. So what will you do and how can you become a chef? Lots of bad behavior. Initial 6 months were hell. And I found a nice roommate, loving, and she took a liking and she loved the Indian gobi aloo I made. And she said, fine, I'm going to also help you, teach you and learn new things with you from you about your culture, and I'll teach you basics. She would tell me how actually bread dough needs to rest. While they were teaching me all this, they assumed that anyone who's coming to bread's class will have some clue. I didn't have any, I didn't know what was a focaccia or a ciabatta or just like a basic brioche. I didn't know the names. So it was very interesting because I was a clueless child, but you know what? It was a clean slate. So I learned whatever they taught me. I just soaked in every knowledge possible. I didn't have a preconceived notion of anything. So I was a blank slate, and it really helped because I became a young child who didn't know anything. So I learned everything.
I didn't know things like dot head and all that were still going on in the US. I mean, as recently
I
as
went right after September 11th. I was questioned for over 2 hours at the airport. It was bad, obviously, because 9/11 happened. And they had this initial thing that my roommate was surprised that I could even speak English, because when she asked me, and my name was Kishi, so she thought I'm Japanese. So she went on looking at me saying, arigato, arigato. I'm like, hi, I'm from India. And she's like, oh, and you can really speak good English. And I'm like, yes, we do learn English. Wow, where did you learn English? And I'm like, on my flight from Paris to here. Like, I was just being sarcastic because I found that very weird, because my image of America was, oh my God, opportunities, so many things, you learn so many. I went through a phase of believing that camel, that whole cow charming country that people show in Discovery, India is that. That's what they really thought. So you had to sort of educate them and tell them that India is not just this. And then, because I was metric, right? We study metric system, and somehow in the class, I think I became friends with everyone when they did a costing class. And I aced that class in like 5 seconds, because math was my, let's say, my weapon. I topped college and school, and math was really strong. So I would just do costing in 5 seconds. It's like Papa ka business ka kuch costing kar rahe, was a big deal. 5 seconds finished. Exam 20 minutes. They would have multiple question answers, brainless for me, like finish the exam. But professor said, you're so good at this, why don't you become a tutor? And I'm like, is that possible? He said, yes, you're on F1 visa, become a tutor, see if you can earn some money also. So initially they didn't allow, because I was an international student, cannot get work. First preference is always to American kids. But somehow, because by that time the dean had knew that I was one of those stubborn girls, vegetarian khana approve karaya hai, I'm definitely going to fight for this also. Suddenly she'll say, this is my right, I must get it because the government says so, 72 hours. He said, give her the tutor job. That's when I became friends, because I started helping everyone in the kitchen on how to actually do the costings, which they were clueless about. I was like, this is so easy. I'll teach you a better method. You do it like this. If 100 costs 20 rupees, 10 costs X, multiply this like the cross system. I would teach them it just this way. And that made me I guess, popular between kids who were really weak in math. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, go to Kishi. She's a good tutor. She will teach you really well. So I would teach them math and costings, and they in return would teach me different ingredients. oh, what's a scallop? What's a clam? I don't know all this. I'm clueless. So obviously, friends became teachers too. That's how they started accepting me for who I am, and not because I was much older to them. They were all kids who were 19, 20. My class did not have anyone my age. They were all 19, 20, young kids, because vocational culinary was considered vocational. So they were age group of 19 to 22. And then there was an age group of 40, 43, just two people from that age. So I was this middle child in between, getting no love from anywhere. I was just trying to make my place, and my place happened only because of my professors. I give them all the credit. I am who I am from school because of them. And when you go to a culinary school, you have to do an internship, basically work in the real world for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, up to you. You pick up the internship. I picked up 6 months, and that boy that I was dating was living in Seattle that time. So I said, oh, I'll go to Seattle, no problem. I got a restaurant completely out of the blue approved for internship. You have to go through the whole procedure. It's a 2-month procedure. I got them approved. I went to Seattle. I broke up with the guy. So I was miserable. Where did I put my energies? Learning new things and trying to figure out who I am as a person. And today, what my pastry style is, or today, the way I cook, is got to do with a guy named Mark, who was this pastry sous chef in Dahlia Lounge, who taught me everything. He was a computer geek, worked for Microsoft directly with Bill Gates, and a guitarist and a pastry person. So for me, he was this person who was God, because he had a normal life. He discussed anything beyond food, but he enjoyed his food so well. And I just became his chela. Whatever he said, I'd do it. Sit, I'd sit. Get up, do this. Okay, no problem. Like that, I learned my style of pastry. Basically, I figured I don't like architectural style of pastry. I like monochromatic desserts. I like rustic desserts.
What's an architectural style?
French, very architectural. One cake, shiny glaze. These days, it's very popular. A little cannelle of something, a flower, a little bead of this and a little bead of that. And inside there are layers and layers and layers, but they're all very architecturally made. Basically, you have to freeze everything, wait. I do it, but I do it in a very rustic style. I'm not measuring everything dot by dot by. I do like plop, throw it like this. So rustic desserts are basically more about taste than looks. And architectural desserts are more French, so they're more pretty. Like French also, there are rustic French desserts like an apple pie or ta-ta-ta. But then there are architectural desserts. So like, let's say an opera with, fancy things coming out of it. Well, they do decorations. I don't do that. I realized that my style was rustic. Now I think Alice Waters is very popular. But on the West Coast, the restaurant I worked at, Dahlia Lounge, the guy who owns it, his name is Tom Douglas. Him and Alice Waters were two people who were very, very famous in those times for slow food movement. So I picked up the seasonal thing in 2004, because I come from a family where you don't eat gobi in summers. You eat gobi only in winters when it's good. You eat methi only in winters when it comes. In summers, you're eating ghee tori tinda, because I come from let's say at that moment of life, not the most rich family, a middle class family that adjusts to seasons. So I was just passing that information there that, okay, what's seasonal? What is right now that you guys are going to eat? And I picked up on all those things. So I figured my style of pastry in Seattle, in school when I did the internship, and my hard work of how to speed and all at Four Seasons when I worked in the hotel. So they have two distinct, very special places in my life. And school, I tell myself, while I learned a lot at school just gave me the foundation, and school just gave me the courage to fight everything. I learned more here, not the school. But had the school not been there, I would have never reached. So I give, like, if I say that out of 100 is school 100% what I am today, no, school is 30%. Rest, you have 40-40 for the place I went to work in real life. I didn't have that experience here in India. And the hotel, which taught me speed, timing, and made me learn so much more that a chef is about than just food that you eat and the food that you cook. There's a lot more to being a chef. So I give them the credit. That's how the journey began, and it was never easy.
We'll come back to the chef bit in just a bit, but just to sort of join the dots there, fill up the gaps. The whole thing of, so where you did you did your internship. You Four Seasons was also in
Okay,
Delhi,
so
or
this,
was it part of
the timeline's like this. FS Bal Bharti, Sri Ram College of Commerce, and then the Culinary Institute of America, that's the CIA. When you study at the Culinary Institute of America, in your degree, 6 months you are given extra time for the 2 years you have, plus 6 months of working somewhere. In between that time, I went to Dahlia Lounge. Now, when you go to America, your visa is such that after you finish your degree, you get 1 year work experience visa.
Mhm.
I did that in Seattle. I did that in San Diego. In between, the internship was Seattle, and San Diego is where Four Seasons was. So I worked there and then took a transfer from that Four Seasons in San Diego to Four Seasons Singapore. So I stayed with the company.
Right. And your parents were in Singapore at that
No, by
time?
that time they'd come to India.
Right. So, okay, cool. So that sort of, yeah. And then you worked in Singapore, and then when did you come back to India?
2007.
And why did you come back to India? Because now
I was
you
just
were,
taking a holiday. I never had any idea that I'd be staying here. So the guy that time I was seeing, he basically said, "Oh, come to India. Sure, I'll come to India. I'll take a break." He said, "No, let's forget it. Let's take a holiday. Where do you want to take a holiday? You are in Singapore. I'll come and visit you, and we'll go somewhere." So I took a holiday in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam and stuff, and basically traveled there for 2 months backpacking. And I really missed my parents. I hadn't seen them. They never came on my graduation. I mean, I'm not a girl who was born in the riches, not with a silver spoon. I've been raised with a lot of privilege. But my parents in that moment were struggling in life or whatever. So they couldn't have taken flights and just come. So I had a very close friend who'd come for my graduation. And also I think I had fought my family and gone there. So it wasn't that big a deal ki agar wo graduate kar gaye. I had already graduated before. So I was technically doing my master's. So then I said, okay, fine, I'll go visit my parents. I surprised them in India. I'd come back from, I'd gone to Kopipi Island for 2 months, volunteering there as a tsunami volunteer because tsunami had happened.
yeah.
I did all that work, helped them cook and build the house and all. I just missed home. I think the value of family comes even more when you see painful things like that. People with, losing body parts, homes broken. I was like, I want to go home. I want to go see mama. So I came here on a holiday wearing my fisherman pants, lots of necklaces, ears pierced everywhere, typical beach girl, and came here and then never went back. Just never went back to Singapore. I mean, went back to Singapore for work again on the project I took up, but never to join back Four Seasons. My boss was like, I'll pay you 2 times, I'll pay you 4 times. I really want you to come back because he found an efficient worker in me. I could multitask. I'm a very good multitasker, and that I like cut my back. Like I can think. My mom goes mad when she works with me in the kitchen. She's like, you're thinking this also, this also, this also. So I would multitask. So he'd be very happy because he trained the kitchen people. They'd look at the cream whipping. And I'd be like, cream is whipping. I will get this. I will scoop the ice creams. I'll finish that. By that time, the cream will be whipped. So he was like, come back, come back. And I was like, no, there were no labor laws in Singapore. So I was being completely, I would say, overused and harassment is not the right word, but like exploited in a way, totally exploited. 20 hours every day. And there was Four Seasons, right? So I would tell my boss, why don't you get me a bed in Four Seasons? It'd be such a comfortable bed. Why do I have to go home to my sister's house? I just want to stay here. I'll sleep here for 2 hours. At least it'll be good sleep. I'll come downstairs again and get me a room here only. What's the point of going from Orchard Road to, my sister's house, like 20 minutes of a ride, when I have to come back in 2 hours time? So super exploitation. And I decided to take that holiday and, go and then miss home. So come back home and came back home. A project came my way. And that time, the same guy because of whom my life was going all crazy, said Four Seasons isn't going anywhere. I said, yeah, but I've applied. I had become a trainer in Four Seasons also to train other people because I was multitasking really well. When you become a trainer, you can pick up a location of your choice where you want to go further and learn and then do training there. So example, Peter wants to learn how to make Indian food. So the chef will put you on a table where you make breads first. Then he'll put you on a table where you make curries. He'll put you on a table where you're learning knife skills. He'll keep rotating you in tables so you become an overall good chef. I'd already done that cycle in Four Seasons much faster than anyone else. So they officially made me a trainer. They said, where do you want to go? I said, oh, I want to go to Turkey. So I was like, Turkey sounds really nice. I'll learn new things. And Doha was also open. And I remember Doha, they told me that I cannot go alone. I will not have the freedom I want. There'll always be a gunman with me because it's not safe. So I was like, no way I'm going there. Turkey just seemed really nice. And I said, okay, I'll go to Turkey, but I want 1 month off. I want to go see my parents. They were like, sure, no problem. That's when I had come to India, surprised my parents, and I never took that Turkey offer. And I never went back to Four Seasons. Then I got an offer, not an offer, but like a project came my way in India. I took up that project, and then it's history. I've been here only. I've just traveled to Turkey for fun. I have gone to other countries for fun, but I never went back for work.
You see, so much of your life, your random decisions have been influenced by boyfriend of that time.
No, it was only one boy. That's true.
It's the
True.
same.
While
Boy.
I dislike him so much, I really do give him the credit that he has made me decide a lot of right things. It was only one guy I've had in my life for that many long years, and I was moving around, emotional, thinking, oh, I'll go to America, I'll be able to meet him.
So the Seattle boy is also the Delhi boy.
Yeah, it's the same boy. It's the same boy for many years, because of whom I went on deciding my life.
All right.
5 years back, this Kishi couldn't have told you this. I would have been too shy to say it. Now I don't care. I'm 40. Who gives a shit? So I'm very honest about this, that I moved places because I thought my life would work out like this. But every time I thought it will work out in this direction, it went in a complete different direction. I thought I'm only here in India for 1 month holiday, then I'm moving to Turkey. I mean, it's a new country I'm seeing. Where am I going? I'm staying in India, in Delhi itself. So my life took a complete different turn every time I thought that I was going there.
Yeah.
It was nice. I'm very thankful. I got to spend a lot of time with my parents. I was a child who was being raised by the grandfather and didn't have the parents around. So I really missed out on a lot of things. You know, my parents don't know a lot of my college life. They don't know what I did then because they were in Singapore. Both my siblings got more time with my parents then. And I didn't get any, like almost a decade I was away from them. Then I went to the US, they came back to India. So then I spent a lot of time with them. So it was really nice. Like there are pros and cons of everything. So same like that. I don't know what life would be if I was in Turkey. I don't know. Would I be talking to you? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, those are the breaks. I was kidding about that, but yeah, interesting that the travel and the formation of so many different things that come into you. I'd like to go back a little bit more on that discussion of and what you were learning in the pastry business, but I thought there's one thing that we should talk about, something that we were chatting about informally as well, which is you can be a very talented cook, someone who really knows, who can cook multiple cuisines and very efficient at it, but that's not being a chef. What is difference between, I mean, and these days everybody just calls themselves chef. It's not like you go through 10 years of medical school before you can put, medical school specialty, whatever it is, and then you come out with a doctorate degree. There are people who've never been in the inside of a catering college or a culinary school who call themselves chefs, right? People who are doing home kitchens and call themselves chefs, not even, restaurant. I'm not saying that you do need to go to school to learn, but what's the difference between being a very good cook and being a chef?
I think somewhere it's your experience of repeating the same things over and over and over. A good cook can peel a bag of potatoes in 1/10 the time of what a normal person will do. So let's say a guy who comes and does cooking in your house, and he can be called a cook because he can produce for 20 people, 40 people, the same food over and over, consistency that is there. Number one is that. So consistency in food. And number two, some sort of a formal training. He must have started from somewhere, must have picked up recipes from somewhere, and then can actually produce for large numbers. Like there is this guy we know who's around our house, So sometimes, example, when we had like lots of people over, 20 people over, my mom would do a lot of things, but he would be someone who would come and help my mom with chopping, cleaning, and things like that. And he still comes till today when my sister wants like 200 theplas to take to America. So he'll come and he'll help my mother because his speed is really good. My mother will take much more longer. He's a cook, but he's not a chef because he's not had any formal training. But if he actually, he's what I would like to call him is he's an uncut diamond. Now, if someone gives him that formal training and actually teaches him a lot of these, he knows a lot of techniques, but they're only limited to Indian cuisine. Now, if someone puts him in a hotel and says, तुमने आलू पील कर लिया, तुमने सब्जी कर लिया, तुम्हें ब्रेड्स बनाना आता है, बट चलो हम तुमको इस नॉलेज को कैसे और अच्छा कर सकते हैं और प्लेट को कितना सुंदर कर सकते हैं वो सिखाते हैं, then he'll become a chef. It's years and years of training. It's years and years of consistency. And also the time that goes into it that makes you a chef. A 3-month Lee Cordon Bleu does not make you a chef. I'm so tired of listening to people. I'm doing it now for 2004. It's 2021. There are days I still doubt myself that am I really a chef? Like, am I doing right in life or whatever? And when someone addresses me as chef, someone senior, I'm like, please call me Kishi. Don't call me chef, because you know why? He's someone senior. He's giving me the respect, but I really want him to see me as someone who can teach more. So I tell them, please call me Kishi. But if it's a junior calling me chef, I'll listen. I'll say, okay, fine. But nowhere I associate this whole like tag. Like, I don't need to be called a chef to be a chef, because I also know that 18 years I've put into it or 20 years I've put into it. So I am a chef. I know that deep inside. But if you do a 3-month course and you come back and you start a business, you're not a chef. You're an entrepreneur who's just taken the basic learning and you're really good at your marketing skills. You've done a 6-month course, but can you produce, example, kids these days or young ones who decide that they want to go to a culinary school? They do a 3-month course because one, it's expensive. 2, diplomas are easy. You decide you want to go, you do a culinary school, you come back, you start a bakery business and it's doing really well and you're making money. Does that make you a chef? No, it makes you a really good entrepreneur. You have good marketing skills, you have good branding skills, you have good brains to figure out how this business is going to run. So you're a very talented child. But does that make you a chef? No, because if I ask you, why is it that the bread is not rising properly? And can you please make sure that I want to produce bread for another 1,000 people? Can that be done? Will he or she know it? I don't know. But if someone knows it and they're able to execute it and do well, they have the capability to be called chef at some point, because they are actually someone who can be trained to become a chef. Like, chefs have had to have time. Chefs have had to have some sort of expertise, some sort of formal training. That's how I see a chef, because that's what I was trained to see in school. So sometimes if I see a really talented person, even as a chef, someone who's worked in the industry for 20 years, but I realize that that person is great at marketing, not as a chef, because she or he does not work in the kitchen. They only just sell their brand really well. I don't see them as chef. I don't have the respect for them as chef. I have respect for them as a great entrepreneur or a great marketing person or a great branding person. Never as a chef, because I always see chefs as working in the kitchen. Someone who is someone who's done years and years of making things right in the kitchen. Like, I can teach you how to peel potatoes. Once I've learned peeling potatoes myself, no. Like, my mom is a great teacher who has taught me that methi has to be done this way. And she has done this for years and years and years. So have that respect that she's teaching me something she's done so many times in the kitchen, but not someone who's just learned on a YouTube video there and then just did it in multiple folds with a lot of help around. And I don't see those people as chef. I just don't. But that's just me. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. Everyone's allowed to think the way they like. That's my thinking. I don't think they are chefs. I think they are people who cook really good food. It's one thing is cooking good food, and it's one thing is being a professional chef. A professional chef will not, like, my mother's not a professional chef. My mother's not a chef at all. She's a home cook who is excellent at cooking. But when it comes to multiplying for 400 people, she always comes to me, how should I do it? What should I, how much shall I soak? How will we pack the boxes? So I'll say, we'll do it like this. We will do the onion peeling or this, I'll tell her the mise en place, the steps of how we're going to put the whole thing together. So years of experience counts.
So I'm getting the distinction between being a home cook and being a chef to some extent, in the sense of, say, this cooking for a larger number of people and consistency and whatnot. But what am I missing here? I'm still not getting quite,
Okay,
that can also be learned.
Yes. So I feel time is an important factor in calling someone a chef, number one. Number two, consistency is a very important factor. Number three, experience of doing it as a professional is important. My mother is a great cook, but she can never plate up like a chef. You associate some things with a chef, like you would imagine a chef would know how to plate up his dish. A chef would know exactly how much more to cook, or what, because he's already built this dish in his head. Home cooks don't think like that. Home cooks keep tasting, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I will put it in better words. Home cooks are evolving as they are cooking. Chefs know what is that thing they want to reach to. They know the destination that I like in their mind. It's like it's like a architecture that's happening. There's like a building being built. Oh, I'm going to put I'm going to put the sauce like this. So they're thinking like that. I think those kind of thought processes makes you a chef. I won't say there's a definition. I won't say someone with maybe 6 years is not a chef. It's just, does that person have all these things? Then for me, that person is a chef. When they have all the things, they are chefs. When they have few things missing, they are on the way to becoming a chef. Like if they are really good with food, they know how to plate up, but they're not consistent, because when they make it every time it tastes different, then they're not a chef. They will become a chef. There is just that little bit lag that is there, and it'll happen. That's why it takes a long time for a person to become a really good chef. It takes time. Every chef that you see in the world has had years of torture of just peeling potatoes or scooping ice creams or making cookies or just chopping onions. And that's what it's like. The more you keep doing, the more you become better at it. Now, which a home cook will also. My mother is also really good at doing the methi so fast like no one else can. But there is no, Pratibha Singh, right? There is no scientific cooking. That's the right word. There is no science to it. The chefs have this knowledge. They have this science to it. They know what they want, how they want to. And that's why a lot of chefs gain your respect, because they've done this hard work. Like for me, a lot of chefs have gained respect. Like a couple of my chefs in CIA, there is a guy named Peter Grueling who I have immense respect for. No one does chocolate better than him, because I have seen him slog. He's thinking like it's a baby. How shall I nourish the baby? What will the baby do in this condition? So he's so scientific about it. He knows what he wants. He has this picture of an end product, then he breaks it down, then he teaches you really well. So a lot of value system comes to a person. A lot of consistency comes, time, experience, all this together packages a chef. When you're doing, for some, maybe I'm also not a chef, but I've put in time in my, at least head. I want to have this confidence that I am a chef. You put me in a kitchen, tell me to bake for 1,000 people, I can produce it. You tell me that this bread is not working out, fix this recipe, I will fix this, because I've also done enough research. So, but that's just me telling myself I am. Could be for another person, I'm totally not a chef, You're like, oh, she's just a cook who's just done it for many years. That's fine. That's your opinion. So I'm not saying that my definition is a rule. It's a thought process I have had for someone who didn't know this field and then went into this field, learned from scratch, even at the age much older than the other people who were doing it. It's an opinion I formed that when you do all this, then you become a real chef. So many bloggers become so popular suddenly. They're cooking, they're doing great videos. I was having this conversation with my brother a couple of days back where I was like, someone told me you must get onto this bandwagon with Instagram and make more reels. And I was like, fine, I want to get it. I'm not good at, doing documentation through video. Let's get someone to work with me. I'll learn also and all that. And I have seen so many young ones doing really well, making great videos, cooking food, doing food, cake videos and all. Are they chefs? No. Can that person produce for 200 people and do like a buffet? I don't think so, because I see that cream being over whipped, but it looks so nice on camera. No one can actually figure out the technique. Does it taste really great? I don't know. It looks beautiful. They can make a brilliant video. They can explain the whole procedure really well, but that's just doing a recipe. Now, can they actually tweak the recipe? If I take away the oil from that recipe and say, now tell me how to make this recipe, can you fix this? For me, these kind of things is what a chef will give you an insight on. Like if you ask a chef, I don't have any oil, I don't have any this. How do I come up with the recipe? What can I make? Like a treasure hunt. You see these things in MasterChef, right? Where do you think these concepts came from? Because the chef is thinking like that. The chef is saying, okay, if I am put in this situation, what am I doing? So I think it's a culmination of all these things that makes you a chef.
So, we have all these different names of different kinds of chefs. Just take us through that very briefly, like a dummy's guide to what are the different kinds of chefs, the sous chef and the something this and the something that.
So you have demi chefs in kitchen. In food, you have lots of different kinds. You have demi chef who's a junior. I don't know, it's different for different countries, Peter. Like India, everyone is a cook, a sous chef, and an executive chef. US also sometimes it works like this. Then there is demi chef, there's patisserie chef, there's an executive chef. Depending on if you're working for a corporate, all there are layers of like hierarchy of people and layers of what all your work you're doing. There's garde manger chef, which is basically you work in just a cold kitchen. You don't do anything warm. You only do cold food and you do carving of the fruits. You know, if you go to a hotel, you get buffets and you will have this tomato that looks like a rose in the corner or a duck that looks, from a carrot. That's a garde manger chef. He will do this for all the kitchens. Then there's a patisserie section, which is the pastry kitchen where you do all, example, there is a soup. There's a garlic bread that goes on top of it. That garlic bread is coming from the pastry kitchen. So it is coming from the patissier where he's making the bread. Now in the pastry kitchen also you'll have people, you'll have the ice cream person, you'll have the bread baker who will come at 4 o'clock in the morning. No other person will come in pastry, but he'll come at 4 o'clock in the morning, defrost all the things, put it for thawing, starting a cycle of breads. There'll be a pasta person. So depending on what menu, what cuisine, you will have breakdowns like this. But there's no fixed rule for this. I've never really seen that there's a fixed rule. But generally what is there throughout, consistency throughout the world, is a sous chef who's someone who's the doer of the kitchen. He's the real mastermind, I would say. The executive chef is the mastermind of that sous chef. Basically, the dirty work is done by the sous chef. He does all the executive chef reaches that stage and gets all the credit because he's done this sous chef business before. You have to be, it's a part of a ladder. You are a sous chef and then you become that executive chef. So executive chef then becomes the face, the name, someone who basically gives an approval for costings that, okay, fine, you can spend that much money. You can buy ingredients worth this much. Okay, fine, I want to do a new menu with mango. I'll give you the approval. I can only ask. Sous chef very rarely decides what to do. It's the executive chef who will say a yes or a no. So he's the karta dharta in yes or no. And sous chef is the real worker. Like he actually produces everything in the kitchen. Okay, tomorrow there is a party for 1,000 people. Example, the sous chef is X. I want so and so, and I want this and this. So the sous chef will be the person who will actually get it organized, get it done. But the credit generally goes to the executive chef until unless he's sweet and he brings the sous chef and taps the shoulder and says, he's my right hand, he's the one doing it. The ideas can come from anyone. I've never felt that it is, the idea can come from one trainee sitting in the kitchen also. Can we do this? And the executive chef will execute it really well because he knows how to execute it. The trainee is still learning.
Okay, all right. And coming to the next part of it now, which I wanted to talk about was you did the training, you worked the hotels, and then you decided to be your own boss, right? To be an entrepreneur, which again is like in the same way that there's a difference between being a chef and being a good, very good cook. There's also a difference of being a chef and a chef who is an entrepreneur, right? And why did you decide that you wanted to start your own scene? And how has that been going? And what's the difference there? I mean, if so many of the people, like I said, especially during this time, the last couple of years, especially, there's a whole lot of people thinking about life in different ways and what it means and say, I enjoy cooking. Can I make that my business? A lot of people have tried that out and are working at it. But what does it take to be an entrepreneur, a culinary entrepreneur? How is that different from just being a chef?
So when I came back, I basically came here and one person known to my sister, family friend, basically was trying to set up a new business, which was about donuts. And he asked my sister in a flight, they happened to be in the same flight, saying that, I'm trying discussion. What are you doing? What are you up to? Oh, I'm planning to open up a donut business. And that time donut was the new in thing in the world, not in India, in the world.
Okay.
It was a new craze, especially Southeast Asia. So she said, listen, my sister is a pastry chef and she works for the Four Seasons. Ask her. She's a very good person to ask and take her help. She'll be good. She does research. A part that I didn't mention when I was telling my journey, I also worked as a researcher for Solana Beach Baking Company that develops products for Starbucks in America. Yes. So I know how to, that's the first time I learned that a croissant in Starbucks is $1 and it's just with essence. There's no real butter in it. I stopped eating all that. So because I worked in the research department, right? And that's how the whole, while I lived in San Diego, I also worked in a flower shop in Four Seasons. I worked 22 hours every day, I think pretty much. Flower shop, that made my brain learn how to plate things more beautifully. One of the top florists was my boss, side work I got. And Solana Beach Baking Company and Four Seasons. So I was three very different things. In CIA also, I was doing the tutor work, math. I was trying to learn, and I was working with a guy named Ezra, who is the etiquette teacher in CIA. They teach you, I have eaten in a thali, in a plate. He would teach me, this kata churi is for this chammach is for this. And I was like, wow, I never grew up with all this. Even though I went to an Air Force school, I was freaking out because I had 10 going like this and 10 going like that. You know, this is a dessert spoon, this is a salt spoon. I'm like, wow, I only have one spoon in India. So much better, man. So there I was working. So it was a mix and culmination of these things that made me say, I want to do hotels because it's a lot of good things that you learn in hotels. And then I worked in Four Seasons. And because of that, I was still thinking that I'll go to Turkey and work there because I want to learn Turkish desserts. I've done Southeast Asian food and desserts, and I have done America. Now, Middle East food is something I want to learn. When I came to India, I surprised my parents. This whole thing happened. My sister told the guy that, oh, you must meet my sister or something. And he was in India at that time. Met up with him. What are you planning to do? Oh, I'm planning to start a donut business. Okay. Can you work on donuts? I said, yeah, donuts are pretty easy. I've made them so many times in hotels. I mean, we like when you have a buffet on Sunday in a hotel, there'll be churros, there'll be donuts, there'll be souffles. There are stations for this where you walk around and you pick something. I said, yeah, I've done all this. I can work on. And because I had a research background, I was very, I guess, let's say scientific about why this isn't happening, why this is happening. So that happened. And I said, sure. And fate has it or whatever, that guy was still in my life. And he convinced me that he said, Four Seasons isn't running away. Take this, no, try. You'll stay in India that way. He was in India that time. So he said, you'll stay in India that way. I said, no way, I want to go to Four Seasons. I'm happy like this. You know, it's so much better. You have such high budgets to work with and all this. And here I'll be slogging, only me and one girl. No. He said, give it a try. This is a startup. It might actually, and you have a business mind at the end of the day, this might really work and it might click. After that, I broke up. So that story of the boy got over. But I did this consultancy job. And when I took this consultancy job, because my father is a businessman, he told me, itni mehnat karni hai. I would come back 2 or 3 at night, work for long, long hours. He said, itni mehnat karni hai, to apne liye karo. And then I went to Singapore for 3 months because the investors were based out of Singapore. So I worked in NUS department, Nanyang University. I worked with them in a test kitchen, completely, let's say, exactly I knew what was the humidity in this corner, controlled kitchen completely. So I worked and did all my research there for donuts. And then my father would say, poor girl's working so much. And he just told me this over and over. Itni mehnat karni hai, to apne liye karo. And I was like, what's this supposed to mean? I can't start a donut business, no? He said, no, but you can be a consultant, no? You won't be an employee. That's all he told me. And Foodaholics was born 2 weeks after that, my company. And that was born because I was sitting and having a drink with a friend. And I was like, God, man, I don't know what is going on. I can't make up my mind what I want to do, how I want to do it. Papa saying, don't work for someone for so many hours. Do it yourself, do it for yourself. So I told him, I said, I need another drink. He said, what, are you going to be an alcoholic today or what? I said, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a foodaholic. I love food. That's how the name was born. And he's a designer. So he was sitting and he had a napkin there and he just drew it. He said, this is your brand name and this is your logo. Go for it. That's how the company was born. And I became a consultant. And the company that I did donuts for was a company called Mad Over Donuts. And from there, the journey started. And one thing led to another where I was the only woman in the whole kitchen. And I was that time just 26, 27. No one took me seriously. Especially Indian chefs, male ego hurts. So there is someone I hired who's 40 years old. There's someone I hired who was 35 years old. They're like, this 26-year-old doesn't know anything. What's she talking about? I know. In Hindi, you say, main dough lagana janta hu. Basically, I know how to make the dough. What is she going to teach me? I'm like, no, wait, this is not a normal dough. You need to give it folds so that the layers form it. I was eating 100 donuts a day, like tasting and dreaming donuts, eating donuts. I just was going mad doing donuts everywhere. And it took me a lot of patience, a lot of gut to fight those 26 men and say, you do it my way. You don't make your own recipe. I have worked on this recipe 6 months in Singapore in a test kitchen. And that recipe that I worked in Singapore was with egg. And I came back in India, water different, temperature different, everything different, didn't work. Then another 3 months I worked so hard. So suddenly I spent a year almost making the recipe perfect. Now you telling me you don't know this, I don't know this, and you know this better. So don't do that. And I had to fight. I really had to fight. Like they would not listen because they didn't take me seriously till I made myself very clear. I said, you will lose your job because I decide that you will stay or not. And I think I became aggressive. And that's when they said, oh, she's serious about it. She really will throw us out. And that's how the recipe was standardized. I worked with two scientists to sort of, make it foolproof, that it becomes dummy proof. Like as if I don't need another human, even a machine can make it, mix it like this, made charts, got into costings, operations, everything possible. It was like a baby I was raising. And the investor basically went on saying that, come on, you need to take over operations and we'll give you stake. And I was like, no. That's when I first kind of like, it hit my mind that, what did Papa say? Be the consultant, take more projects, because I don't want my knowledge to be stuck only at donuts, because once I get into the operations, I'll never learn any other product. I'll be growing a business, I'll become a businesswoman, but I will not be, what I want to be is to learn about food. So consultancy happened like that, and I became my own boss, and I worked with different products and different people. And the journey of an entrepreneur started then, where I was like, I want to do this. I can pack my bags today for a month and travel the world and learn about food from there. And at the same time, I can come back and then for 15 days do a gig where I am actually like a freelancer in a way. I can do this gig and I can learn about this product because I'm working on it. And then at the same time, launch it. That's how the whole entrepreneur brain worked in me. And I said, fine, I'll do this. I'm not going to get stuck with one company. I started taking different projects, and the projects have gone on in different directions, from research to Iyengar Bakery in Bangalore to Godfrey Phillips India to sort of, stabilize their stores. So it's been different projects, and I've enjoyed every aspect of every project because they're all different. And that's what I love. Like I'm not stuck in a place. If I want to pack my bags today and go to the hills for 2 months, I can totally do it. I want to switch off and reset button, I can totally do that. So I like this part of being my own boss, but there are drawbacks to it also. You have to constantly think, how is your, freelancers, I mean, this, freelancers have more worry than anything else, because when the payment will come, will they get more work next month or not? So there's a constant battle, but I still want to be my own boss. And in this whole process of past, 2004 to now, one thing changed was my priorities. I was all about, I want to earn money, ambitious, crazy ambitious. I want to earn a lot of money. But by the time I reached India and 2012, not even 2007, because then I was money driven. 2011, 2012, my health was going down. It started going down in 2007. 2007, I also figured out I'm diabetic. I was tasting 100 donuts a day. That basically became fuel for my diabetes to come much earlier. I would have gotten it anyways 4 years down the lane or so. My health was not the best, and I realized that my aim is now no longer about money. It's about me being happy and me being calm and telling myself it's okay if it's like this. I do have my stressful days still today, but I also have days where I tell myself, fine, it's okay. I'll get through this also. I'll get through that. So my priorities changed, and my outlook to food has changed. I've gone back to the roots. I want to learn how my mother makes the methi aloo than to learn some new nouvelle cuisine. I don't want to say stupid because that might be a wrong word, but like some new sphere of something made. That's a different field. It's not my field. I feel food should be kept. My approach is like that. There are all kinds of chefs. So my approach is that food should be simple, seasonal, and without any drama. That's my approach to food. There are people who believe in the drama of food. There are people who believe in fermentation, different kinds of chef, who believe that that's better. So new things. So my thing is simple food is the best food. No drama, overpowering flavors, not needed. Simplicity is better. So I've gone to that, and I like it like that. I want to learn all the lost recipes that are there in my family, what my grandma made, why it was so much tasty and my mother can never replicate it is because of the years of practice my grandma had. So things like that. I've changed my outlook. Like simple food is what I like to eat. Right. Whatever I post on Instagram is exactly what I eat. It's my plate. There is no curated meal there. It's how I eat. So I have taken that approach, and I like that. And as an entrepreneur, where you would think many times is costings, is example, when you work in a hotel, you're doing a trial, you will put 100 grams of kaju, you'll put 100 grams of badam, you'll increase. Okay, fine. You make money in the whole big picture. In restaurants, you make money in the whole big picture because you're also buying in bulk. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're not buying 100 kgs in one go, you're buying 10. So the costings change. So you have to think these things through until unless your big business becomes this big that you're buying 100, which also means you've rarely grown your business. I've not gone to that level because I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to become a cookie cutter chef. I want to do everything new every day. And that's one thing I want to maintain. Many times people will tell me, so why aren't you going Foodaholics pan country? I'm like, I'm trying to keep it very quality, boutique style. I want to do cakes myself because I still want my hands to work. I want to be a hands-on person. There are days I get very tired, but I want to do it myself. And that's why I will charge 3,500 for a kg for my cake. No, because I'm making it. I don't have one worker helping me and doing it. I don't have that. I don't have this. I have two girls who do the dishes and they'll help me with mise en place. Cake baking, I'll do myself. I can make 50 cakes in my house by myself, no problem. In my little tiny ghar ka oven if I want to, but I have 4 ovens. So my thing is, I don't want to do that. I'm happy to do desserts for 200 people by myself, no problem. I don't want to lose that touch of working in a kitchen, which is what happens to all executive chefs.
Yeah.
They don't work anymore. They just pass orders. They will probably take a tweezer and put flowers here and there, and in the end say plate take away, and chits they'll remove. I don't want to do that because I've seen all that. I don't like, I like to cook. I want my hands messy in some sort of a salad, this thing. So I like that. So I still want to do it. Plus I want to, one thing that happened when I was in Delhi, a lot of people started copying my stuff, designs and stuff. So my mother said, you're such a good person, you can come up with 10 more designs. I don't know what happened. I just started doing everything custom order. What I make for you, I don't repeat for another person. And that's how the cakes are always different. I never, whenever, whatever picture I've sent you is all the cakes I've made myself. No other person's pictures and all.
Which was rubbing it in even more because I knew there were cakes you made yourself.
Yeah. So no,
Just not for me.
that's the entrepreneur thing, that you don't give up. You just say, fine, you want to copy, that's flattery, great, copy. I will come up with 10 more designs. So I never repeat the same cake. It's basically custom made, and you keep doing this over and over. So it's basically like my creative juices are flowing and I'm fine, and I'm not like stuck in. I think donut made me feel that way. When I was breathing, drinking, eating donuts, I was like, oh my God, how many donuts? Like, how many donuts do I have to eat to say this donut is not good, this donut is bad? And that's when I realized that I want to do different things. I like I'm a multitasker. So like that, I like multiple things. I like to make something here, something there. Like the same things don't work for me.
I understand. And I hear you on this because I mean, it's very important. I think one thing that I've realized in the course, I worked in advertising, I worked in journalism, and I realized that it's not what you produce as well, it's the way you look at it and your creativity that matters. And that creativity is one thing that does not get depleted by use. You just get better at it. You will take my idea. It's cool because I backed myself to have 5 more by tomorrow, right? Five
Yeah.
more different ways of looking at it, and that's part of it. There's a couple of things I do want to get back to that we left behind. One was the gender bit and all that, but what we were talking about just now is what I want to pursue a little bit more, which is even now with the difference between cooking, just being a good cook, being a chef, being an entrepreneur, and being an, I think the whole thing of the moment you're going into a brand of something, that again becomes a completely different thing, right? If, I mean, take Mad Over Donuts. I want exactly the same thing every time I go to Mad Over Donuts, right?
I get hate mails, Peter, till today. Hate mails. I get hate mails till today. When I'm not even associated with the brand. It's been 7 years. I did the whole thing. I raised the baby. The baby was a teenager. I said, bye-bye, on your own now. I'm hopping and adopting another child. But I still get hate mails because when the chocolate is missing in the double chocolate donut, they're like, why is it that there is not enough chocolate. I'm like, wow, someone's really screwing up in the kitchen there and not following that 1 ounce pressing of the, of the basically of the pastry cone so that equal amounts of chocolate goes. So someone must check. It's none of my business. I'm not running the business. I did the recipes. I worked with 2 scientists. I worked with a baker in Singapore who taught me a lot about xanthan gum, which was not my field initially. That how, and when he gave me that xanthan gum idea, I came up with an eggless donut recipe by the end of it. So I did my bit, whatever I had to do. So these daily basis operations are not my field. I never reply back now because you know what? I reply back, then another email comes and it's got nothing to do with me. I just automatically say, hello, so sweet of you, replied back, and this is madoverdonuts.com. Please go. I've heard multiple things where the quality has reduced. The flour which I sort of approved and got was from Cyprus. And then basically King Arthur, Sri Lanka happened. Now I don't know where they're buying the flour from because the flour has to be kept at a temperature. Then only the donut recipe will work. The volume will come only because of that. I worked on that recipe many, many years ago, and I worked my butt off on that recipe. Now I don't know. It's none of my business. I set up the whole thing. Baby's gone. And that's why I'm so glad to my father because you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with operations. I want to learn new things myself. My journey is to learn over and over about different things, So I don't want to be like, there are many times people say, oh, you did the donuts. Can you make the same donut for me? I'm like, no, because you cannot have the same setup to begin with. The guy invested crazy crores. You want to do the same thing? You can't do that. You do a better donut, make it fresh. Just do 20 donuts. Let those donuts sell out, then make it 100 and stop there. Don't do a factory. There are already so many brands doing the factory donut. People will switch now to things like, we want a fresh donut fried in front of us. The demand will change. Create that demand. So, this is what exactly I do as a consultant. I help people sort of channel their thought process. Like sometimes a person will say, oh, I'm thinking of opening up, like just about, I think 2 months back, a guy called me. I want to open up a cafe in Jaipur and we are looking for a consultant. Would you be interested? I said, sure. What are you looking for? He said, nothing, something pastry. I said, then you call me when you have some clarity, what you want to open, what brand you have in mind. Now, if you want me to work on these things, then you have to pay me for that day that you call me and discuss these things with me because my brain has 200 ideas. If I'm even giving you 2 ideas, you better pay me for that. And this is something Sureka taught me. Don't have charity, you're not a Gurdwara. You're a girl who's giving ideas which people don't have. They'll be able to execute it. You are not executing it because you don't want to go that way. So you better value yourself first before you give your ideas. So I was like, fair enough. And that's when I said, call me when you are ready with your business plan and then we'll talk about it. No problem. So I feel, I still feel very strongly about the fact that I'm not I might be associated with the brand, but their day-to-day working is nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. I don't get into that. I don't get into who gets how much pay. When you work with brands, a lot of people will work with you. Someone will complain and say, "Ma'am, मुझे कहीं और job दिलवा दीजिए. आप तो जानते हैं 10 लोगों को." मैं कहती हूँ, मेरा कोई मतलब नहीं है. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm here to do the product. My focus is product. Once I'm done with that, your daily operations, how this happens, up to you. I don't get into that business because I don't want to do that. If I want to do that, I'd get an investor, start a cafe on my own. But then I'll never be able to close my bags and say, I just want to take 2 months off. You can't do these kind of things.
I mean, there's so many variables there. What do you want to be doing? Do you want to metaphorically get your hands into the dough, right? Literally or metaphorically. If you want to keep doing that, there's a limit to the kind of scaling you can do in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if being the executive chef of a very large, very good restaurant there's a scale of difference between that to say being the executive chef for a 5-star chain. But that growth is a different area. If you want to do a mad over
different path. Everyone has different paths. I want to be
plus a negative, all of those things, right?
Like I want to be a free bird. I want to, like, I'm very happy to shut shop right now in Delhi and say Foodaholics is going to Ladakh. Foodaholics. I'm not thinking she's going to Ladakh. Me and my brand and my entity is going to Ladakh to learn about the cuisine for 2 months. We'll come back with cakes inspired by our travel. Foodaholics is going. Kishi's not going because she's taking a holiday, but this is an educational holiday.
Yeah.
maybe 5 days are holidays, rest of the days it's learning and learning the cuisine, the style, and how I can incorporate that over here. And it doesn't happen in 2 days time, because 2 days time is touristy stuff. You have to spend some decent amount to sort of learn few things from people around, the locals. You learn all that, then you bring it back and you get inspired. And you make cakes out of that. Then we'll say Foodaholics, little collaboration with some Ladakhi chef, and we're doing this. That's what I want to do. I want to keep my arms free to go wherever I want to go. I want to be a free person. I want to be a free person.
Okay, no, that's the point I was trying to get that, which it's very important when you're deciding your route here. And this is, of course, true literally with what we're talking about here, in the food business, but in any kind of entrepreneurial kind of thing, there are so many different ways you can go, and each of them has many different demands. The madness of, say, starting up Mad over donuts will be a certain amount of magatmari in the beginning where you're really putting in a crazy amount. And there will be a point at which you can sit back because the business is now running itself and you're taking very, very mota decisions. But
It
that's
never
not
happened like that.
no, I'm saying theoretically.
Yeah,
There
theoretically.
would be a time if you had been the one raising those crores, you would be putting in that time and money because there's so much money coming in, and then there would be a point when, but all the time you would be still making those donuts, right?
Yes.
And you wouldn't be
My
able.
growth would be stagnant.
Yeah, you would just be. I mean, it would be mad and it would be over donuts, but it would be because that's what they chose to name the brand. It would be donuts, right?
Probably I would look like a donut also right now. Not that I don't look one. Well, I mean, I'm a cute donut, but not. I don't know. My health took a toll when I did it. 100 donuts a day, 200 donuts a day. I was not even eating it. I was spitting it out. I was biting it to see if the I was checking every batch. So every human who was eating a donut was happy. I was at the store all the time. Like my life was donuts. I was like, I should just marry a donut. That's all I do. And it came to a point I was like, what am I doing with my life? Is this my life's purpose? Like, is really the purpose, just to do donuts? I'm learning no other pastry. I don't know how is it to make a baklava. I don't know these things. What happened to turkey plan? It's like my thought process was in a box because I did not think beyond donuts, right? I did not think all I was thinking was how to fix a donut, how to make this donut tasty. My mom wouldn't eat the sweet donuts, so I came up with savory donuts called Mama Mia, where I was putting cheese fondue and olives and stuff. I was doing dried garlic, so that the shelf life was better. All sorts of things, but with donuts, the dough was same. I was not doing any new experiment. Only the flavor profile was changing. I was spending more time in operations, and I realized that's not me. I want to learn food.
Absolutely.
So that's how the whole this consultancy bug was anyways there because of my dad. And I think I'm very thankful to him. Had he not told me, I would have never opened a Foodaholics. I would have still worked there as an employee and then from scratch again, because I would have been saturated and I would have said, I want to find another job, and another job would be what? So but with this, a part of Foodaholics was born, which was my own cakes and desserts, which I had never paid attention to because as I came to India, I joined Mad Over Donuts. I never really paid attention to anything else. And then when this happened and I was getting really frustrated doing donuts every day, my friends are just amazing in a lot of ways. Kishi, make me a cake, no? My creativity would just come out. I'd make an amazing cake. I'm like, oh, I must layer it like this. I'm very thankful to Sidin actually. He was that time working with Mint, and he said, Kishi, come up with some very interesting cake, no? I'm like, for what? He said, I want to write about the kind of cakes you do. I've eaten. Now I want to write about it. So I want you to come up with your creative thing and come up with a very interesting cake. I made a 9-layer cake where I did flavor profile with texture. So when you cut a slice and you take a bite, first comes crunchy, then comes gooey, then comes something that's very cold, 9 layers. And then the top had these white chocolate pearls all around and with gold dust. So edible and beautiful to look at. So when you cut a slice, he was like, I was in office. I ate that slice and I was in heaven. And I was like, really, you liked it? He said, what were you thinking? I said, nothing, flavors. Like when I put in the mouth, a bite of orange jam must come. Then, oh, mousse has come. Oh, then there is this really nice gooey almond cake. He's like, wow, I've never eaten a cake like that. And he wrote a really nice article and he took a beautiful picture, which I never forget. And I realized that's what I want to do. And these kind of things pushed me to, further say, I want to do my own pastries. I want to do my own cake. I want to do my own things where my creativity goes. I have a client who called me, Kishi, I love lavender. Make something. I say, wow. Every time I think lavender, I'm first thinking soap. I'm never thinking cake. So I would say, why do you want a lavender cake? She's like, come on, yeah. I went to France, to Paris. I had such amazing, lavender cakes. And I'm like, how do I put lavender in anything Indian? Like, I mean, how do I give this person lavender? And because we don't have lavender like they have lavender, it's a very different aroma and taste and stuff. I made her a lavender white chocolate madeleines, and she was in love with it. She's like, wow, this is a great combination. So I also had to think, no, how to do this dessert, because I'd never made it before. I have made madeleines before, but I'd never done this combination. I did trials and errors and stuff. So I did it like that. India, people are not a big user of trial. So when you do sticky toffee pudding, they put normal golden syrup jo mil jata hai market mein, honey and all, but the molasses gives a very different, and we are not big on molasses on daily usage. Industrial uses molasses big time, but markets you don't see molasses so much. But as time has progressed, you're doing it. So when I started making this sticky toffee pudding 10 years back and I gave it to one of my clients, she's hooked. 10 years from now, she's still taking sticky toffee pudding from me, and I sell it, and she's like, it reminds me of my time in London. I love your sticky. And she's like, you make old school original stuff. And I'm like, no, because I realized that I'm also trying to survive, survive in the sense that I'm trying to make something that is from the time that I have tasted it when I was in the US. And now I'm recreating it here, trying to see what will fit here. The cookies for that reason. So there are different things that I try to bring my memories of what I worked in Seattle or in Four Seasons or what I ate there, and then bring those flavor profiles to it and just keep it simple. No nonsense, like no drama there. Just simple flavors.
One of the things that I think, to add to what we were defining it earlier, to be able to take something, take a memory, take what you read or see, and deconstruct. And I don't mean that deconstructed in the way that it's formally used in the industry of molecular gastronomy and all that. I just mean that to be able to deconstruct a set of flavors and say, how will I take this and how can I get something in that direction with what I have available here? What am I playing with exactly? What are the components of this thing? And that really makes the difference. I think one of the things of being able to look at it from the eyes of a chef, or even a very good cook can also do that, right? Can taste something and say, okay, you've run this, and this, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that's, I think it's someone with a good palate.
Yeah.
Who can think like that. So I'm very happy doing that because it keeps me very happy. It keeps me on my tippy toes to think. My mom knows she can make paratha out of anything. Anything she can make a paratha. So just 2 days back, I told her, I said, Ma, you've not made me a corn paratha. She's like, I've not made you a corn paratha. I'm like, no, you never made me a corn paratha. Can you make me a corn paratha? She bought corn today. She's boiled it and kept it now. So I think in the next 2 days' time, there'll be a corn paratha. You'll see a picture somewhere on my Instagram that she's going to make a corn paratha. That's how it is. Because I'm just like, why she hasn't done this, something new. So I just want to, and that's only possible when you keep your, your canvas big and you're open to anything. And you're open to erase and make it white again and start again. That's how it works. And I want to do that. I don't want to get stuck in one place. I don't want to work in one place. I want to make money. I want to make money till I am comfortable. I want to see the world. I want to travel. And I want to keep my life simple. My priorities have changed from 10 years back, completely changed. There I was money driven. Oh, I want a big business. I want to do this. I want to do that. No. Not after when life has changed in a lot of ways. So I just know that I want a very simple life. Also, I don't have, I don't know, I'm not that, we're three different siblings, three very different aspirations, aspects that we look at life with. I have changed. I'm calmer now. Baking does that to you. You realize the bread takes its own sweet time to, get that boom going. So I am now calmer. I don't get upset. I have my stressful days. Money can be a big stress thing. When COVID has changed business and thought processes of people. No one wants to spend money so easy now.
Yeah.
Plus my work is specialization work. So I have to always keep innovating myself and keep looking for new ideas of how I want to reinvent myself and how I want to pitch myself to someone and say I am of value to you. there's a constant battle that goes on. Plus, the market now has so many more people, so many people who are chefs. 3 month, the Corner Blues degree chef, 6 month, 10 month, genuine chefs. Times moved on, So, what I didn't have in the age when I was 19 was YouTube. People learn on YouTube now and become chefs. People learn on videos and learn something, and then they start their business and they become a chef. So a lot of these things are not there. But then I have time and experience of a different kind, right? So I just have to keep reinventing myself and say I have to still find my place. So I keep doing that. Some good days, some bad days. Some days I exist. It works.
No, that COVID situation, especially, I mean, because you're, as a pastry chef, as a, baker, these are literally things that are desserts are a luxury at a time of privation. No one's going to complain about not having desserts, or that'll be one of the things they'll cut out.
Yeah.
You know,
True. They cut out.
The dal roti person is not going to.
Survival was the important thing then.
Yeah, what in a different idiom, I mean, what the British would call the meat and potatoes is the basic, and then we look at the pudding later, right? Or whatever it is. But Kishi, I just want to touch on something that you did talk about when what you faced. Well, one of the things that we hear so bloody often is, when we talk about men not cooking, and a lot men will say, we know, but some of the best chefs are men. The thing is that when it came to cooking, and this is true of so much of not just India, many parts of the world, in the home, it's almost guaranteed it's the women who are doing the cooking.
Yeah.
But anyone who is cooking outside the home in any different way is likely to be a man, far more likely to be a man than a woman. And that's because just of the way the world is and who could work out of the home. Men were expected to work out of the home, women were expected to work in the home. But you faced that issue. What is it like in the world of cuisine right now? Is it from the time that you were looking at this seriously and what you know, has that changed? Have the gender equations changed? Or is it still a world that is misogynist or chauvinist?
It's a very misogynist. It's very patriarchal. I will lie to you right now. There are only 3 people, so I will not lie. It's not changed at all. I know the best of chefs whenever they write, like so many people's Instagram, chefs. I'll send you names privately. They still write, oh, woman chef, oh, female chef. Why can't you just be called a chef? Why do you have to say, like, why is gender given such an importance? Why are we saying women chef, female chefs? It's a chef. It's a unisex thing, chef, that's it. Why is this whole, oh, women, if they're on their monthly period, they won't be able to work too well. Number one. Oh, she's a woman, she must be nazuk, she can't pick up such heavy stuff. Lots of things. So these things are there and they are all hidden and accepted. It's all, I will lie to you and I'll say that even the best of chefs. You know why I'm so fond of someone like Manu? I don't see his thought process or approach like this. He's a very cool guy. He doesn't think like this. He thinks of it as a chef. But have I ever worked with him inside the kitchen and seen the real Manu? No, I don't know. But my heart and my gut feel, because of the kind of person he is and the time spent and what I gather from him, the way he talks, I know he doesn't do female chef, male chef. He does chef. But I know so many more popular, more experienced, more well-known, women chef, female chef. And I'm just thinking all the time, wow, man, if they have daughters, what are they trying to teach their daughters? So I've also reached a stage where, Peter, I've made my preferences very clear. I have a very strong political opinion. But for that, I have different friends. I have a very strong female chef, male chef opinion, strong one. I do not share it. There is no point because I've realized I'm not here to change their thought process. I need to make sure that anyone who is not from the field stops thinking, because something is happening here for that effect to happen here in the kitchen. If people start accepting women chef, there will be no women chef. It will become chef. The demand that is being done, it's by outsiders. This happens. Oh, we went to that restaurant. There was a female chef and she was so good. So I feel like yahan pe you influence, it will be better than influencing there who are hell-bent and stuff. So I would sometimes like tell my school friends, 2 lawyers, or someone that, oh, that chef was really amazing. She did such a, like, oh, they have a woman chef. I'm like, there's a chef. And like, yeah, you're right. There's a chef. That's how I'm able to change the whole narrative rather than going to someone in the kitchen saying woman chef, woman chef. I don't believe in this narabazi. No, I rather change someone's mindset here so that when he goes out and says, "Oh chef, thank you, the food was amazing," as it is, two more people will hear from an outsider. That's how I feel. But yes, major gender gap, major gender gap, with lots of things. Pay, I'm sure there's a lot now. It's improving. I don't know. I've never worked um, as an employee of someone, so I don't know whether it's equal or not. But I'm sure there is a gender gap. It's still there everywhere. But this woman chef thing really bugs me. I just don't say it out loud, but it really bugs me because I'm like, matlab, do we say woman housewife, woman, like you put a woman in front of every other job that, I mean, a woman caretaker, a woman mother, do you speak like that? Mother is a mother, no? Father is a father. So like that, chef is a chef. It's a general neutral thing. You don't have to make it so evident and in the face. I don't know why, but it happens. It's okay. It's part of life. Patriarchy is being there for so long. It'll take time to go also. Be patient. Everyone's fighting for it. Men, women, some men, not all.
Yeah.
There's a major thing. Like, and I know because I faced it in the kitchen myself. Oh, you're so tiny. Oh, you're a woman. Sit in the bowl. There is no point. In India, do they do this? America, I faced a lot of racism. And so that's why when people have this whole bubble of, oh, America is so great, I'm like, go there, live there, you'll figure it out. I stayed there for a decade, doesn't matter. I don't know why I never built this. I want to live in America, land of opportunities, and I will live there and I have always adjusted. That's one thing I think I have in my nature. You give me a fan, I will adjust to that. You give me an AC, I will adjust to that. But as time progresses, I'm clear I want a fan or I want an AC and I'll work towards it. That's what I want in life. So I feel it's the same thing. I didn't really ever have this emotional connect of, oh, America, I want to live here. I have memories of people there, not places. Like I don't have memory of America, the concept of the country that is there. I have my friends from Seattle, what I did with them. My friends from San Diego, what I did with them. I learned about life. I worked with all Mexicans. I never, I must tell you a very interesting story. Four Seasons in any hotel in America has this rule. When they make desserts, so at night after service, whatever is left, there is a big trash can. Wastage is number high, like high numbers in I'm saying high numbers in America. Anything that's left, trash can. And I'm like, wow, man, that's like 20 pastries. I worked so hard to make that trash can. Why? You cannot give it to anyone else because the day has passed and then it can become a liability, right? Because something happens to you health wise, it's a lawsuit on your way. So they throw it in the trash can. And I come from India, we don't throw anything. We just don't. I have grown up in a family with a zero waste concept. You don't even throw the atta, chidiya ko khila dete ho. So this was just like bad. And because the pastry kitchen came under me, I was just like, and that time we didn't have an executive chef, so the whole pastry kitchen was under me. So I was like, there's no way I'm throwing. You know what I started doing? After the service would get over at night in the restaurant, I would quietly call all the dishwashers and I would just put the napkin and give them a dessert and say, and just go eat there in the back behind the dishwasher, but don't you dare tell anyone. I started doing that so often that pretty much every day I would hope that at least 5 desserts get stayed because that means my 5 boys, dishwashing boys, will get it. There was the dishwasher head, Murillo. Never called him that. I called him Diablo, the devil, because he would just look at me and say, 5 for the boys? And I'm like, yeah. He said, Chica, 1 for me. And I'd be like, no, Diablo, you diabetes cannot eat. No, these boys, they will eat. You won't. No, 1 for me. So I'm like, such a devil, always giving me emotion. I have to save 6, somehow figure out a way to sell something else and not this one. And like this, the boys just became so loving to her. One Indian, Mexican, very similar in our thought processes. They became so loving. You have no idea. The whole four-season kitchen never understood that why I never picked up a plate. The boys never let me pick up any plate from the dishwashing station. They would say, oh, no, wait, Kishi, wait. Stack of plates. You stay here. We'll bring it to you. My stations were always full. My dishes were always cleaned. My stations were cleaned by them. And they just loved me. They were like, she gives us food. And then tsunami had happened. No, not tsunami. Something had happened in some natural disaster had happened. And I made my general manager sort of contribute and all that. When was it? Yeah, we contributed to some national disaster in some country it happened. I don't have the memory. When it'll come to my mind, I'll tell you. And that time I told him, I said, we have a lot of like food wastage here. Why do you guys do that? Can't you come up with a better idea? He said, what idea do you have? I said, I don't know, maybe put it in the canteen out there for people to eat and say that, we are making good stuff, cut it in pieces and give it to them. He said, yeah, but it is 1 day old. So live. I'm like, but you give it a choice. You write it that this is 1 day old. Let them pick if they want to, and let them not eat it. But trust me, nothing is going wrong with this. So they did that with, few pastries, not all. But the dishwashing, I never stopped. And one time my boss saw that and he got really upset. He called me in the office. I almost thought I'll lose my job. And he quietly patted my back and he said, do this quietly. He also has no problems. And that made me develop relationship with all the guys who did the physical hard labor. When I say physical hard labor, means the dishwashers, the cleaners, and I never got treated badly by them. In fact, they treated me so well. I was amazed. Like it was like as if karma was like saying, here, take, you don't have to pick a single plate up. You don't have to pick any dishes. So the boys in the kitchen hated it. They hated it. They were like, what is she doing? Why are they doing this to her? My dishes are not here. I'm the chef. And so my boss, this tiny boss like me, of the kitchen, the executive chef, used to get really angry. Till I told him, I said, they're humans. Don't treat them like animals. I mean, I don't know where you guys come from, but please treat them like humans and give them some food. They deserve this food more than the guests outside because they work so hard for it. Yeah, I mean, they look at their job. And the boys would just have a great time. One time, a guy named Tori, I was a vegetarian, got really upset. He physically threw a piece of beef at me, thinking that she'll get upset because it's meat. And I just didn't know what to do. And the dishwashers, you should have seen, they came all behind me like a protective layer. They just stood there as if saying, whatever you will do, we'll stand by you. I picked up the beef and I threw it back at Tori. And Tori and I are really good friends today because he had never seen a girl hit him back with beef. I was like, what do you think? I'm just going to like sit here and do nothing? And I picked up the beef and he went crying to the chef saying, you have no idea. This girl, she's thrown the beef at me. I said, are you done crying and being a sissy? And he was like, what? You were the one who threw the beef. I said, first, someone had to throw beef on me for me to touch the beef also. The dishwashers, one by one, all came and said, boss, he threw first. She got upset afterwards. She threw back. Good job. Should have thrown on the face, aimed there. And I was like, I love these Mexican boys. So I made relationships with all of them. And I went partying with them. They took me to Tijuana. They took me to their houses, dancing in the parking lot. I've had the best memories with these guys, and they're all really well off to do. It's just that they do hard work. So I feel that it's not, all kitchens are very different. This male female thing is totally there, but you have to find and fight and figure out a place for yourself, and then I don't know, be who you are. Like I used to curse in the kitchen, and I was never a very assertive girl. I was very shy in school. I was very shy. I couldn't go to the podium to even say the thought for the day on the assembly line. And then I became this aggressive, strong girl because I was told by my boss, you have 7 minutes in 4 seasons. The dessert has to be plated and given. From the order sheet that you get, from there you have 7 minutes. The number of desserts you miss, you are paying for it. That's a different story. 2 years down the line, he gave me as a huge bonus. He saved all that money. He never cut from my pay. He was just teaching me time, consistency, speed. But I went on thinking every day, oh my God, I'm losing $25 again in another 2 hours. Shit, I've lost 70, I've lost 100, I've lost $700. I lost over $3,500 in my brain. That's a different story. I got it back. But I lost like that thinking, and I was worried. I was like, I have to pick up my speed. But he did that to me, and the boys was so nice because I'd be like, Vivace, fucking pick up my dessert. My ice cream is melting. They'd come running. Oh, she's upset. Let's just. All the bussers, all the dishwashers are all Mexican. I worked in San Diego, all of them Mexican. And I learned so much from them: speed, consistency, how to hold the plates right, and how you can run like a little mouse in the kitchen. So while I do not like this whole women chef, I have nothing against who teaches you, whether a woman or a man. And end of the day, if they're good at that, whether a man or a woman, you just learn from them. Like I don't see my chef bosses as a man chef or a woman chef. I just see who's teaching me a better technique.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the women who will have an issue with this. Usually it's the men, like you said, the ones who were older than you and taking orders from you and resenting it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's kind of ridiculous. And they're resenting you because you're a woman, not I mean, as much for being a woman as for being younger. That would be one thing to to overcome, and then having to also deal with the woman part. Yeah, but but how much has that changed, Ravi, now over the time that you've been in the business? What are you seeing?
If I say percentage wise,
Hmm?
in front of what I've seen, 20% max. I don't see much change.
Hmm.
I really don't see much change. It'll take time. I do see more women who want to be chefs. When I went to school in 2004, there was hardly anyone going to a culinary school. I don't know. That's why I think I became this topic of for a journalist to write about, or to talk about, because oh my God, she's left her education and become a chef. It was pretty common in the US that time. I think US you still had a lot more. Okay, now if I'm saying more women going into this field, but in India, I didn't see it much. You had two, three very well-renowned names. You had more a person like Tarla Dalal and Neeta Mehta had become very big that time because they were these women who were working at home, creating a niche for themselves, but they were housewives at the end of the day. So the recipes were not like what you do in a buffet or anything, but home style recipes, and they were actually making it presentable.
Hmm.
So they were very big, but I don't know if there were lots of women chef going. See, I'm saying women chef again now. This is the thing I need to change too. Like lots of,
In this
I'm just,
context, that's
yeah,
what.
I'm saying like in the sense that a lot of women going into this field. I don't want to say women chef because if I'm saying it
Hmm.
is wrong. So a lot of women going to this field. I didn't see many then, but there were a lot more now. There are a lot more now who want to become chef and want to go to a culinary school, because I get a lot of messages on a regular basis. Please, can you guide us how to become a chef? And I'm like, are you sure? Do you want to become a chef? You have to stand on your feet for 20 hours a day. My feet in the bottom, like the skin, is torn. Seattle, my hours were 20 hours every day. I was an intern. I was everyone's little Chotu, come here, do this, come here, do this, because intern, no? Come, you want to learn? You want to learn how to make chocolate pie? Come here, make the dough. But oh, it's too heavy. Oh, do it yourself. You want to be the person who wants to learn how to make ice creams? Go first, scoop 2,000 scoops of ice cream for the buffet tomorrow. You want to make this dessert? Okay, go make the buttercream. It's Bill Gates' party tomorrow. You have to make, Roselle raspberry buttercream. Go. That's the kind of orders I used to get. I'm like, fine. You want to learn something? Come, pit cherries. I used to be covered in cherry juices like blood, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Being a chef means this, because no one told me also that you'll have to do this. No one told me I have to peel potatoes for about like 4 hours. No one told me that. I didn't know because the field wasn't mine. I had no chef in my family. So when someone in my house said, I want to be a chef, I'm like, yeah, go first, peel the potatoes, then we'll talk. So it's just like that. But I don't see anyone telling this truth out loud. Now they do. Earlier, no. I don't know. Not in 2004, 2002. No one told me in 2002 that you want to be a chef. You know what all you'll have to do, because I didn't know anyone from that field. Now, because there's so many more, there are so many more people who've done this, who've come back. They do it, and that's why you see so many people actually doing smaller courses, 3 months, 6 months, because a 2-year degree also means you're doing lots of these kind of things. And maybe many don't want to face it because they want to learn the technique. They want to come back and start a business. That's the majority, I would say.
It's one thing that I think I meant to touch on and didn't. A couple of things that I wanted to get back to. One is the difference between the final product when you're cooking for a small group of people, cooking for yourself, or even, I mean, it's already, I mean, everybody can understand when you're cooking for one is very different from cooking for a family. And that's multiplied exponentially when you're looking about being cooking for a restaurant, an entire thing, or if you're making some sort of branded dish that is sold in a huge scale, that is on manufacturing scale. And the things that you can do and can't do with those are all very different. I mean, you cannot replicate that restaurant's dal because it would be uneconomical to do it the home style there. And
Yeah,
they have techniques that they use that are different. Things like having a stock pot, doing a stock pot at home
yeah,
is not easy to do.
yeah. You don't do that. You just take
In a
cubes
restaurant,
sometimes and add.
yeah. At home, it makes sense to just get a soup cube
Yeah,
and put it in. because you get that concentrated flavor, because you're not going to have, you don't have enough ingredients to be dumping into that stock pot when you're cooking for four. I mean, the only way you can do that is to put it in a bag, freeze it,
As
and heat
simple
your
as
stove once a month.
Peter, as simple as example, when someone's doing Mexican food. Now, my best friend's Mexican, so I have learned the recipes, like the region she's from, which is Sonora. So I've learned that style of Mexican food. Baked beans जो मिलती हैं इंडिया के अंदर, most of the times even the best of restaurants just take those baked beans, mash it, and then they sell it as refried beans. They put some tadka or something in this. That's not how refried beans are made. Refried beans, you have to change the water 7 times, boil it. You have to cook the shallots in a specific heat. You don't put color to it, but you keep cooking it till it becomes like candy. Then you put some milk. You have to put lard. Now, if you don't put lard, it's not refried beans. But I'm a vegetarian, so I can't put lard. So my best friend keeps telling me, you're not eating refried beans. You're eating your pinto beans only in some form. You're definitely not eating refried beans. So there are these kind of things, but when you do it in a commercial kitchen, it's very easy to do because you have every ingredient available. At home, I won't make a stock pot for myself, but if I have 10 people coming, no, then I make stock because I know I want to give them something delicious because I'm a professional chef. But if it's just me and my mom, I have done one thing. I take the peels, I've chopped them in my chopper, and I've dehydrated those peels, and I have put that mixture in a bowl. So when I'm making, I'll just take out a little pinch of it and just throw it like that. So it's 18-20 difference. It's not 14-20 like putting a cube, because I love making that food. But if it's a normal person, they will not take all this effort of saving the peels or whatever. They'll be like, chuck it, just put one Maggi cube and done. A lot of these things that are done in restaurants are done in steps. Example, the dal you get, dal is boiled and kept in tumblers. Tadka is done fresh there and then. Lots of tomatoes already chopped at service time. Lots of onions are already chopped. So you're taking a ladle and taking little and making the tadka. In my mother's case, so what a home cook does, that can be replicated in hotels and in restaurants when they do buffet. When they make bigger quantity of something, you take a home recipe and multiply it. But when you're doing a la carte or service, you cannot do that because you have to make it there and then serve to your client. So you start what you call deconstruction. Like you make the gravy separately, you boil the dal separately, you do the mise en place for the tadka separately. So like that, different cuisines have different styles. And even with pastry is more like buffet when you have a shop. But if you have a plated dessert, then you have to make there and then. So example, I used to do this plated dessert, which was one of the biggest hit in Dahlia Lounge, was this. I used to take a half green apple, fill date butter in it. So I used to make the date butter, apple, peeling part because it will oxidize, but then I cover it with a dough and then put a leaf, and I would do a white chocolate ice cream and caramel sauce. All these ingredients were individually prepared, but the baking bit happened, and I would make apple dumplings every day by my service count. Example, today 10 are selling, tomorrow. So a pattern. I would bake 20 of them day before for the next day service, 10 of them day before for the next day service. And then the baking happened there and then. The sugar part would go there and then. The caramel would happen there and then, because the freshness will only come in a plated dessert when you make it fresh. So to put that dessert up, I needed 18 minutes total, because from baking to making. So that 7-minute thing had changed. And that's why every busser had to tell the waiter that they have to inform the client or the customer that, it is minimum 18 minutes when you order this dessert, because that's the time period I need to give them fresh. Chocolate cake that you do plated, a sauce would be there and then, but a cake would have been done, slices would be cut. So it depends what the thing is, how you are plating it, how you're giving it out. But buffets or, let's say a counter where you have things kept, you can make it in bulk and you can just keep putting it and refilling it. That's very home style in a professional kitchen, because they're just doing numbers. They're doing like a langar. You're just doing bigger quantities. But not when you are doing a la carte. No, it's very different. Your brain thinks very differently, very, very differently when you're doing a la carte and when you're doing buffet.
Something we chatted about when we talked about this last week, the whole thing of being a pastry chef, particularly, looking at this whole idea of desserts. The Indian concept of the sweet dish, the mithai, is very different, right? Because I remember my mom she learned her, family is Anglo-Indian, and a lot of the handed down recipes are hybrid, but based on British food or European food to some extent, which has then done its bit of fusion in India and is different. It could be spicier, for instance, or whatever it is. But when it came to, I mean, my mom was very popular with her friends when we moved away from my hometown, which had a lot of Anglo-Indians. But in other areas, my mom would always be the one who women were asking, okay, how do you make cakes? My children are asking for cakes. We don't make cakes, right? It's not our culture to make cakes. And my mom was teaching a lot of people to make cakes. How's has that is the Indian palate in that sense been changed, and are people going more and more in that direction, more popularity for that, and not just the urban
Yeah.
kind of
So,
things?
there is this thing in French cuisine called hors d'oeuvres, which is bite-size dessert. So, example, if they make something big, they'll do a small version of that of dessert, and that's bite-size. So, someone's walking in a tray, and they eat it. Indian desserts are like hors d'oeuvres, basically bite-size, pick and eat. But now you see someone suddenly doing rose flavored pinni. I've never thought of that. I've never heard of that, right? Because it's not something commonly made. We don't, rose was not something that people were adding in pinni, they were adding in drinks. So there is a change happening. You'll suddenly hear that there is, like, example, I made a cheesecake with chunda. Anag used to really like that, with chundo on top of it, because I was trying to bring harmony to my Indian flavors, because chundo is nothing but like a mango compote with a raw mango and some chili and also Indian flavors to it. So I feel that change is definitely coming. There's lots of fusion Indian mithai, but I'm a old school soul that way. Like I feel, why make this? Like when I had my cheesecake, I took one bite, I loved it. I said, no, I'm not selling this. I never made it after that, because I feel just let's keep it simple. Like I'm okay with the Western flavors being Western and Indian being Indian. I want to experiment sometimes. I'll make it, I'll enjoy it. If it's amazing, I'll keep it. But I'm still to some extent a bit of a purist, where I'll be like, kaju ki barfi is kaju ki barfi. I don't want to add kaju with some sort of rosemary in it or thyme in it. I don't want to do that. Like for me, it's like, why destroy something that's already so nice? No. So I'm like that, and I will say leave it. So I've never someone who believes, I'm not a molecular gastronomy person. I don't want to eat dahi bhalla in a sphere and say, wow, it burst in my mouth is great. I'm like, no, yeah, I'll eat dahi bhalla straight. No, I've always believed you eat good. Like even though I'm diabetic, I'll eat real dal makhni, lots of makhan and everything in it, but I'll eat lesser quantity. So I keep it like that. Rasmalai, I will keep it, have it like that. I don't want a lavender rasmalai. No, thank you. So it's changing a lot, and there's some really really good things. I think some of the good things that are done in Bombay are by Bombay, the Bombay Sweet Shop, the Bombay Canteen guys. They do a good job from what I'm hearing. I've never had it, but my heart says it's good because Grish is really good. He's a really good chef. So it's definitely happening big time. I mean, and why not? There's nothing wrong in it. There's everyone has their style, no? If they, the point is, if it would be just my style or just yours, it'll be so boring.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a good thing, but I will enjoy, I will taste. I bet I'll keep it like that. Like sometimes people will say, can you make gulab jamun trifle? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll make it, no problem. This is business, I'm thinking, not creative. So I'll make it business, because I know that I have 10 orders for that. I'll make it. What's the problem? But is it like, wow, will I make it on my in my house on some days? No, I'll keep it clean and simple. I'll put gulab jamun separate, rabri separate, ice cream separate. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think what you were saying about having it in its original form. I'm not a big one for junk food, by and large, but occasional uh, McDonald's breakfast is what I would like to go and get their muffins and stuff.
Muffins, yeah.
So out of curiosity, I tried the dosa muffin, McMuffin, and that was pretty amazing in the
Mm.
sense it didn't look anything like a dosa, but the mouthfeel, like you bit into it and it felt like you were eating dosa.
Really? So a lot of essences, perhaps.
Yeah, it's just something about the consistency, the taste, and everything. It was, like I said, without looking like like a dosa, masala dosa at all. It just felt like eating a mildly spiced masala dosa. But
Interesting. I don't go to McDonald's. It was part of my thesis of how they cook and what all they put in the food. Not good.
my parents both like McDonald's food, so I reluctantly would go and get stuff for them, and which is when I discovered that I don't
But the
like
muffins are nice. I've eaten them on
I don't eat
emergency
much of
basis.
their food, but their breakfast.
Vanilla.
Yeah, I would go to get only for breakfast there for my dad and my brother. We get waffles, which I would make lots of critical noises about what would eat, the waffles and the muffins, but didn't like much of the, still don't like much of the rest of the food. But
Shall we ask Pratibha to come if she's comfortable?
Pratibha,
She's only left here now.
the conversation.
Sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Pratibha, do tell us if you want to join in. Yeah, because you've been chatting away, but if you feel comfortable with voice or with video, just let us know. But I think one last bit that I did want to think was, which you mentioned a couple of times, which is the diabetes. How do you manage the diabetes with your profession, which involves the, I mean, you can't just cook without tasting
So much.
yeah, and obviously consume what you make, so to speak. Uh, you can be careful with what you're doing, but just, and also because you're not, it's not a factory process. You are making it differently each time. Yeah. So how do you,
I have good days and bad days. I'll be honest. I love my parathas. I love my rotis. Like a part of right now, I don't know what to say. Part of my head right now is hurting is because what had happened was I was driving. I came back. I checked my sugar. My sugar had gone to 62. Basically, my afternoon medicine kicked in and it made my sugars fall down. And I was very hungry, so I wanted to eat something. I was getting acidity, headache because I've been driving and stuff. So I told Mama, what is there to eat? And there was some pumpkin soup. I ate a little bit of pumpkin soup, but I wasn't feeling too well. So she said, shall I just make you a paratha? You just have a paratha and have it with chutney or something. And I had it. But my body is now reacting badly because I was not disciplined. I didn't eat. I'm supposed to eat every 3-4 hours, something, just something small. So my sugars are maintained. I didn't eat because headache and bahar road pe, gaadi mein, I just didn't want to. I ate 2 parathas, small ones. But that must have taken my sugar up further, no? Like it dipped and then it went up like this. So I got worse headache and hence I still have a very back pain, like sort of a thing in my head here. I've taken a crocin, it's not helping. So one thing I always have to think twice is one, my discipline of what time I eat it at. I do intermittent fasting, I eat my dinners early. But there are days I'm just not disciplined because I want to try this, I want to try that, then I tell myself, fine, no problem. I'm okay with being not disciplined because it's my life and I want to be happy. And in fact, I wrote this in one of my posts, just I think of how I've turned 40 and I don't want to be miserable and life's too short. I don't even know how long I'll live with how things happen these days. So while I'm living, I want to be a happy person and I'm okay. Moderation is the key and I'm okay with eating little bit. So I've eaten 2 chotu parathas. Now I have to make sure that tomorrow I'm eating something light. I'm having a salad because my system is already hurting right now because it dipped and then I ate paratha, it went up. Technically, I should have had a huge bowl of salad, but I had no energy to cook. I had no time. And I couldn't expect my mom also who's come with me to just suddenly, churn up. She's also a diabetic patient. So she just had soup. She didn't eat anything. She controlled herself and she didn't eat anything and had pumpkin soup. I ate because I was very hungry. So the sugars went up. So you have to watch, you have to be disciplined. Some days cut your heart out and say, can't do this. Like right now in my brain, a drink would be really nice because it'll relax my muscles and stuff. But what am I drinking? Raspberry water. Because if I drink also again, now the sugars will just go up and the headache will worsen and dehydration will happen. So I just have to think and be rational about it. And I think I no longer have that 20s wala blood where I'm like, oh, I have to do it. I have to get drunk. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I have a headache. I don't fall for peer pressure anymore. None of my friends can make me drink if I don't want to drink. They find that so weird because in 20s, when they were like, come on, Kishi, we're drinking. I'm like, yeah, we're drinking. And now I'm like, when you drink, I don't want to drink. I no longer, Ted did this whole personality thing of who you are as a person. So my personality came as against the tide. Like she's that one. And they made a t-shirt where they made a little fish and they said against the tide. And they said, your personality, because they do this IQ thing, they ask you questions. If you are going in this direction and going towards red, if there's even a slightest chance of like white or yellow on the corner, I will just run there because I don't want to be with so many people in one direction. So I'm just like, fine, I will just do this. I know peer pressure happens to me. So I'm very disciplined that way. I do my walks. I do my terrace gardening 2 hours every day. I manage it. But I don't want to live unhappy, not eat my paratha, not eat my white butter. And
I
I do
hear you
that.
on multiple fronts there. I just relate to that because a lot of my life decisions have been about a very deliberate going against the tide, trying things differently because just not wanting to be part of what everyone is doing because where's the fun in it?
Boring, no? Then
But also,
my one of my very close friend was driving a car with his then girlfriend, and I was sitting at the back, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, look at those houses in Chennai." And I was like, "Oh, such boring, all white, white, white. I just paint mine red." And he'd say, "Oh, I'd paint mine purple." And then I was like, "Yay, those are nice colors." And the girlfriend was like, "Why, honey? The white is really nice." And he's like, "Yeah, that's why she's my very close friend and you're my girlfriend." So I was like, he was like, "I never believed in this whole cookie cutter thing." And he and I get along on this part that we don't believe in this whole cookie cutter thing. If everyone has purple, we will definitely have a different color. Like I choose it like that.
is he still with the same girl?
No, he's changed money. He couldn't have stayed with her. I know that from day one.
Yeah, but this also the other thing that I mean, something that when I had heart issues and whatnot, and I think the thing that my cardiologist told me at that point, which I found really wise and something that I found very easy to practice, was he said, don't deprive yourself of anything that you enjoy.
Exactly, exactly. Don't deprive yourself because your body craves it more.
You will just, because then you're going to binge. You will give in.
I don't do any fat diets. I've never done it. I did talk about, I think about a week back or 2 weeks back about my weight issues. I gain and I lose very quickly. Because if I'm not disciplined, then I will gain. Like it'll become chubbier, chubbier, chubbier. And then suddenly I become disciplined. I was my weight went from 54 to 60 in span of 2 months. I'm back to 56 already in 1 month's time and it's gone because I'm just disciplined these days. That's all. I have my bad days when I worry for work, when I worry for things, and I will just eat. Like I will not think, I will eat on time. I'll say I'm sleeping in late. If I'm disciplined, I'm okay.
It's been an important thing for me to realize that I think I, I converted this in different kinds of ways. Like my family was a meat eating family, but slowly became more and more vegetarian over the years. And so partly because of my parents' health issues, then it became for me as well something that I started cutting down. And not just for health issues, but also about concerns about sustainability and all that were very much a part of my decision to go more and more vegetarian. But the whole thing there of what I enjoy, I will not. So my thing was that, okay, I'm not going to waste my meat cravings on average stuff. I will have that really good steak somewhere. I love cheese. I'm not going to waste my cheese quota on processed
Like
cheese.
me, I do the same thing. I don't eat processed cheese. I'll eat really good brie that costed me 1,000 rupees, but I'll have that slice and I will cherish that slice like as if it's the last time I'm eating cheese.
I will buy the blue cheese, divide it up into little bits, put them some in the freezer, take one. When I have that blue cheese, I am 100% concentrating on the flavor of that blue cheese.
So my father, he sold newspapers at the age of 7, and that's how he started his life. But he was the guy that even when he was doing crazy selling on his scooter and accidents, whatever, going in the hills and trying to sell some 500 rupee worth cable, and trying to sell, going door to door and saying, you can put the cable here in this electric wire or whatever. He'd come back to his house in Muzaffarnagar, and at night his mother would give him badam, and he was the one who would be the bread earning person in the family. He'd go buy badam, buy this much, but he'd buy mamra badam. That's the most expensive but taste. So he was the. I've written this post. I'll send the. I don't know because you were not on Instagram then. When my father passed away, I written a wrote about it, who he was as a person. He was all about quality over quantity. Eat little but eat a very good quality food. He's taught all us kids exactly this. So all of us are like that. That's why my mother says तुम तीनों बिगड़े हुए हो बिल्कुल. Adjust कर सकते हो पर खाना अच्छा ही है. तुमको कोई बाजार का उल्ट पुल्ट पसंद नहीं आता है. And I'm like नहीं आता तो नहीं आता हमें नहीं अब हम the whole world. I mean not the whole world. That's exaggerating. All the people in India like Natraj ke dahi bhalle Natraj ke. I'm like Natraj ke dahi bhalle so overrated. They're so shit. Their salt has like color in it and all. Yeah, there are so many other chota individual people selling better ballas. So my mother keeps telling me that again, you're not what the whole world is thinking. I said, I always told you I'll never believe what the whole world is thinking. So I will do my own thing. So she says, hey, you get this from your dad. Because he was like this. No adjustment in quality. No adjustment at all. I want to ask, what does Pratibha do? She's very sweet. She's been here for a while.
Pratibha's been one of our most frequent guests, right from the first time I did this, which was an informal.
I'm
And
sorry you didn't have that many people come in. I don't know what is one supposed to do to have more people come and join the chat, but I'm happy, so I don't care.
I mean, no disrespect to the people who come, but I don't do this just for them. I do this because I want to have an interesting conversation, and I believe that the conversation is interesting for people to listen to. Therefore, I invite people to come and listen to it.
Fair enough.
Right? And this conversation will eventually, there is, of course, yes, there is an experiment I'm doing, which is, can I build live audiences, people who will come to listen, not, it'll go on YouTube eventually. I'll put it there. And it'll be there for archival value because I believe the conversations are interesting. But really, the conversations are very self-indulgent. It's about me. Who do I want to talk to and who do I want to learn from?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Everything else is a bonus.
Enjoy life. That's nice.
Yeah, she was, I mean, my first encounter, if I remember right, Pratibha, was you were in Goa when we had our first pre-table talk meet for deciding what to do. And you were thinking of going.
She still is, she's saying.
Okay, you were thinking of going to Uttaranchal at some point, right? But yeah, I think the last thing, I'm just going to let Pratibha into the conversation as well. I think the last thing I did want to ask about was, who are the chefs around whose work you find interesting, inspiring, not necessarily emulating or any of that, but with your attitude to food and the way that you produce it and all that, what's the work that you enjoy, that you see that is interesting to you?
You know, Peter, I've realized that I'm no longer I probably it's inherent nature that I have. I'm not a brand conscious person. Like, I don't believe in paying LV 2 lakh rupees to wear a bag that says LV, LV, LV. Like, they should be paying me, no? If I'm taking their logo and showing the world, yeah, I'm carrying an LV. I'm not a brand conscious person. So the same goes with my attitude towards the chefs. A Manish, a Manu, they all have privileges like I have. I don't want to be someone's favorite chef. I don't care. I just want to do good work. So I don't believe that I have to say that the chefs were chefs to be a favorite chef because they've had the privilege, they've had the podium. You know who for me? The small street vendors who continuously still strive hard and are able to produce really good food. For me, those are the inspiring ones. Like, I love the fact that Bittu Tikki Wala has become who he's become in making aloo tikki. He used to take lessons from my father, you know, what kind of pani to make, and my father would tell him, "Tu santre phekta kyun hai? Iska pani bana." Because my father had a very good palate. And he actually made it and he came home and he said, "Didi ko bolo taste karke batai. वो तो chef है, वो बताएगी कैसा है." And today his 3 waters are selling and now it's become a hit in every chaat ki dukaan and everyone has different flavored waters. So my thing is, I have respect for these people. For me, these people are inspiring because with no privilege, no, some privilege and no bandwidth like what a chef has, they're able to do so much more and they have that entrepreneurial in them also. So I find these people very interesting. Like, they, for me, are very inspiring. The fact that they never give up, the fact that their middle class does not stop them from dreaming big, because I come from there. I'm not born into the riches. I'm born into a middle class family. So my brain thinks like that. So for me, anyone, I know the fact that I had to take up a loan and give a loan for CIA, but these things are tough. Yeah, at the end of the day, 50 lakh rupees is not nothing. Also, sometimes I wonder, wow, man, YouTube se bhi to seekh sakti thi na main. If only YouTube was there, then. But then I tell myself, come on, Kishi, then you wouldn't have learned like this. You wouldn't have had an experience in San Diego, Seattle. What are you talking about? It's like hindsight. Because like it's one of those things where you feel that, oh my God, look at the kids today. I mean, they do YouTube videos and they've just done no education and the cream is over whipped. I can see that the souffle is not right. The taste won't be good, but it looks beautiful. Long time back, I told Naina this. I don't know if you know who she is, but Naina is a photographer on Instagram and she's Reddu. So she's pretty popular and she had made
the first Indian person on Twitter.
Yeah, first Indian person on Twitter. Long time back, she made a caramel apple or something. And she took photographs of it, very artistic photos of it. So I said, by the way, that the caramel is burnt and the apple must taste like shit. She said, I have taken a liking to you because you're honestly telling me that the food is shit, but the photo is really good. I say, yes, because I know that caramel is burnt and the apple must taste like shit. You can't really eat it, only you throw it away. She's like, it did. It was so bad. I could eat it myself. But isn't the photograph interesting? I said, yeah, looks can be deceptive. Yeah, it's the photograph that's interesting. Teach me, how do you make shit food look good? She laughed and laughed and laughed. And she was like, you're right about this. Food can just look very pretty also, but it could taste like crap. So I am the other person. It can look shitty in photographs. I don't care, but it has to taste really good. Like it can look very boring and average, but it has to taste really nice. That's why rustic desserts are my scene, not French desserts. So I find that very amusing, in fact. So I feel that if people would start, but then there's this big saying, why is it we eat or we feast from our eyes first, right? So for me, it's like as long as it's appetizing, I have no problem. It doesn't have to look wow, gorgeous, appetizing. That's the key.
I mean, I remember in my advertising years, I mean, things have changed now in food photography because lights and all that have changed. But at that point, hot lights and everything. So there were lots of things you couldn't do with food. But some of the stuff that you see in absolutely beautiful food photography winds up with completely inedible food. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
scene was mashed potato.
Yeah.
You paint the chicken so that it looked spray painted, literally spray painted. Because if you cooked it with if you shot it under bright lights,
Yeah.
it would just look insipid. So you actually painted it. You put all sorts of stuff. You sprayed stuff on your grapes to give them misty glow,
Yeah.
which was actually poisonous. Things like that. So yeah, food photography, of course, it has changed now because, for instance, you don't need hot lights anymore. You have lights that don't emit that much heat. There's stuff you can do. Photography is better. The lensing that you have is better. You're no longer working on film, so you can take chances, look at your digital, change things around, all of that. But yeah, uh, Kishi, I'm very conscious that you have a headache and that you've taken time out and we've gone half an hour over. So I'm going to formally end the recording now and we'll continue to chat. But thank you so much for this conversation, Kishi.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much for being such a sweet person and making me feel comfortable that while my headache was maybe 90, then it's 70 already, like it's less. But I know that the only thing that will help is if I keep drinking water. That's all. So I'm doing that as I talk to you. So I'm fine and I'll be okay. But I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I'm sorry that not so many people turned up, but I think it was fun. We had a good time.
like I said, it's not important to me. I mean, yes, I think these conversations are worth it. That's why I do them as open conversations. We could very well just do these as private recordings.
Yeah.
I think it's fun to have people around. From the comments that we've been getting right through, I think people who attended did have fun as well and were listening attentively. So I think it was lovely. And so thank you so much. And
I would love for Pratibha to, can you add her, please?
hang on a second. So
okay.
just formally ending the recording now.
Okay.
And thank you, Kishi Arora, and back on Table Talk again in a fortnight from now. But for now, goodbye.
Thank you.